Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 176. This is Carl.
This is Adon.
And this is Justin.
Thank you for joining us. We know it has been a little while since our last recording. We've been dealing with various family issues and travel and all these things that real life kind of takes hold of and interrupts our hobby time. So, but we do have quite a lengthy show for you this time around. And in this case, we are going to be talking about a couple topics that one kind of dovetailed into the other nicely, I thought. The first one we're going to be talking about is the pillars of the hobby, which are really, as you'll hear, we thought were 5, but are actually 6 pillars that we've broken things into that constitute what Games Workshop refers to as the hobby.
Right.
And where those things sit, and it's a nice kind of discussion about those.
Gets kind of deep sometimes, yeah.
Yep. And then we will move on to a New York Times article about hobbying and what it means to you and how seriously you pursue it. Both of these topics were brought up in our Facebook group, one by Pablo Valero, who talks about who was the one that basically set the idea for the pillars of the hobby in my mind. And the other was by Tom Taylor Bigg. Sorry about that. Tom Bigg, who linked the New York Times article that he saw in another forum, but I read it and it kind of struck a nerve with me, and I thought it would be a very, very interesting topic to discuss. So you guys got anything you want to add before we kind of kick it off and get going?
All set, ready to go.
Yeah, it's good to be back in the swing.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so we hope you enjoy the show. Wargamma.com, where you can get resin terrain, craters, lakes, lava pools, and objectives. Figure bases for all types of models. Character models including Battle Wolf war mounts and spawn seeds. Linked barricades. Choose from one of 6 designs to suit the origins of your army. From Star Pharaoh, Spawn Hive, Mechanoid, Dark Ancients, Dredelian Noble, and Chromag Scrapyard. Linked barricade sets include 12 large shields, which are 2 inches wide and 4 connecting walls. Cover nearly a 30-inch line. Sets also include a matching multi-gun turret. Wargamma.com. Alternative battle miniatures. All right, and as usual, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of hobby progress, and we're going to start with Justin this time around. What has been going on with you in the last month, Justin?
A whole lot of Nurgle. I got that fever after...
Needs an antibiotic.
I need something. An ointment of some kind. So the CK Studios 103 class
Right.
was a ton of fun. And I painted up a Nurgle knight. I was like the only Chaos Renegade
It was
knight
amazing.
in the building. Special snowflake, boom.
Yep, boom.
Is that right? I thought there was one other.
I believe so.
You were the only one with the cool pads and stuff, the cool armor.
Like shoulder pads?
You had you were painting the knight with the Forge World Chaos shoulder pads,
Yeah.
and torso,
right.
top, and everything.
Like tore up armor and
I
stuff.
have one.
It's
Black
amazing.
Legion one.
Yep. And I didn't really do any conversion work really on it. I magnetized it, and I say that I actually added some brass etch to it.
Yeah.
Just on the battle cannon and some of the parts that are just kind of boring.
Yeah.
But after painting that model, the whole time I was sitting there working on it, I'm like, oh god, this would look so good on my Plague Burst crawlers and on my whatever else. Like it was, and it was so much fun to paint.
Yeah.
That I got back and I was like, damn it, because I've been trying to stay focused on my Deepkin project.
Yeah.
But I was getting a little burnt out on it because I had put so much into it.
Sure.
I was starting to feel a little burnout, so I was like, this is perfect. I could take a little deviation, work on some Nurgle stuff,
Right.
and then I can go back to it. So I managed to build mostly assembly. So I built 3 Plague Burst crawlers, which great kit, goes together super smooth.
What do you think of the look of the kit?
I dig it.
Really?
I dig it. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan.
I dig
The
it.
the little tracked vehicles with the.
It's got the mortar on back.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I see what you're saying. It's kind of a little on the smaller, kind of maybe goofy side.
No, I mean, it's okay. It just doesn't appeal to me. Like that particular model doesn't. It's again total personal preference.
Yeah.
I like bigger, hulkier kind of Nurgle things.
It is tiny.
But
It's tinier
it does
than
kind of look like a Vindicator, though. You think you'd get a couple
Well, then
extra...
I should get free ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. But no, I dig it. I definitely need to do some conversion work to differentiate the 3 because they have a lot of the detail on it that's like exactly the same. So I got to hit it with some Dremel and add some different skulls and green stuff work and all that to it. But I dig them, and they're so good in the game that it makes me dig them even more.
It's always a deciding factor.
Sometimes it can be. It's amazing how I'm not too keen on that model, but man, is it good in the game? So I'm just excited
I'll do
about
17 of them.
Rule of 3, man. The rule of 3. So I built 3 of those, and then I built up 10 Blightlord Terminators. And that new kit is
that is an amazing kit.
Awesome. Yeah. And I
mean, I'm in love with almost all the Nurgle stuff, to be honest with you. Yep. And what's interesting is I steered away from it because I felt like, it's going to be too popular. Yep. Now I don't see a lot of people playing it, which is really interesting. So now I'm kind of like, maybe I should just build a little kill team for Nurgle stuff, especially because I can't remember
Nurgle
who it is.
kill teams are really
but
strong.
I saw a guy do a beautiful Nurgle kill team on our Facebook group, and I was like, dang, that looks really good.
And they're really good in kill team.
I got my butt kicked by one of them.
They're tough.
Yeah.
Tough rascals.
Yeah.
But and I did a bunch of conversion work on them. I should have brought them over to show you guys, but I used some of the easy build guys, and then it's not Lord Zufor. It's the easy push fit Nurgle Lord that came out.
Yeah, Zufor is the world.
He's got a similar name. He's the guy that's got like grinning ear to ear.
Yeah,
and he's got the scythe.
Yeah.
He's the unit champion that I converted up, and so went to town on those guys. Super fun. Got them pretty much ready to be primed.
What are the bases you made for them?
So I kind of have my method to my madness down with basing. I do. I start with cork, a layer of thin cork.
Okay.
And then I roll out epoxy magic sculpt.
Magic sculpt. Is that the one you cook, right?
I use that in the end too, but it's I'm just throwing a blank. It's basically
green stuff.
I'll come back to it. No, it's the rollout putty you get from the art stores. Sculpey, yeah. There it is. So I roll that out real thin, and then on these guys I just pressed foil into it for the texture.
Just gives it a rough texture.
Just tin foil, and you press it in there and do some different grooves, and it makes
aluminium foil for you folks in the EU.
Aluminium. That's right.
I would always call it silver foil, and people make fun of me. It's not silver. Oh yeah, well, I don't know.
No, you get a really good texture off of it though.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have the rollers too, but I only have like the kind of ones for my deepkin. So it wouldn't really work too well.
I have chaos ones.
Ooh, do you?
That chaos from Green Stuff, the company.
Yeah,
the
Green Stuff Industries.
Yeah. I have the chaos one. If you want to borrow it, just try it out for some things.
Sure.
Talking about the Deacon for just a second, do you see the Aquaman trailer where they're riding the eels?
Yeah, I did.
I haven't.
Pretty crazy.
And the big turtles?
Yeah, I was like, this is Deepkin right here, man.
Really good.
Were they color shifting?
They were kind of color shifting. I like that trailer. I like the trailer.
But so basically I start with the layer of cork first, but I don't just leave it at cork because I think if you just do that, it looks like cork.
Yep, agreed. No, I agree.
I mean, it's better than nothing, right? But it looks like cork.
Yep.
So I add the thin layer of that Sculpey because it's kind of pricey.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't have to, and the cork acts as like the bulk of the shape.
Gotcha.
And then I add the thin layer of that over it, and then I take textured paint and I go around the cork.
Okay.
So literally all the cork is covered, and it's just being there to act as the bulk.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of have this urban, and then I add bricks and skulls and things like that. So it's very.
How long? So you typically don't create just one base? Like you'll create a bunch
I did all
at 10 one time, right?
At the same time.
You do 10.
Yep.
Like how long does a project like that take you?
From start to finish, I'd probably say maybe a couple hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes time.
Yeah.
I just like.
But the results look great.
Yeah, I'll post some pictures on the community page for sure. Because I love just basing, and I actually got the idea to do a lot of that from James Wapple.
Yeah.
A lot of the videos he posted.
Yeah.
Super cool guy. Check him out if you want to get some inspiration.
I don't think anybody knows who James Wapple is.
No. No.
If you don't know who James Wapple is, look him up. He's pretty well known.
He's a magician. And I did manage to get a bit more after the CK Studios class. I did manage to do quite a bit more sponge weathering on my Night Titan, because it was very much like when it was done, like it looked nurgly, but it was too clean.
Yeah,
and it needed a lot of griming up and gritting up. So I had a rust set from Vallejo.
Okay,
and I just basically got basically all the colors that came in it. I just got it all on my palette and just went to town and just
with sponge
layered, subtly, not like covering over all the hard work I did, but it's coming out looking cool.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Did you do some of the guys from Kill Team or no?
I built those
from
guys
Rogue
too.
Trader?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about those guys. The Gellerpox infected.
Yeah, you don't like those guys.
You don't.
There's aspects of them that I like.
Okay.
But I think that they're just like, I understand that Nurgle has this kind of goofy thing going on, but these models to me kind of looks like somebody just took a zombie model, put some putty on it, and stuck it in their bits box. And so they came out with like a Necron head.
So you're not a big fan of those?
Not a big fan.
This is from, let's be clear, this is from the Kill Team expansion.
Right.
Rogue Trader
expansion. Yep. Okay.
And so I went on halves with the Don and got those from him. And
now you're like,
I built them. I Zenithal primed them. I got them on custom bases and everything. And I got them all ready to go, and I just went, and I pushed them to the side and just went to go work on it. I'll go back to them. They'll get done. But the main thing, I wanted to get them done for your event, just so I had a kill team.
Right.
But I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
I couldn't do it. So I might even.
Did you play any Kill Team?
I have not played a single game of Kill Team, dude.
Wow.
I haven't been doing much gaming, as we'll get into later. Life's been really busy for me personally.
Well, tell me about it. But Kill Team is, I'm telling you, like the game will take you 20, 30 minutes. Once you're set up, 20, 30 minutes to play. Like it goes very quick.
Well, hobby progress. Let's get a game in, buddy.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
Yeah.
And you can learn me some Kill Team.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, that's me.
Adon, you.
Yeah, so Justin mentioned the CK Studios airbrush class, CK Studios 103.
Yeah, so let's kind of break from just your regular progress here, and I'd love to hear from the two of you how that class went.
It was okay.
Yeah. Was it worth the time? It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was hosted at Heretic Games, and
which is where?
Which is out in San Bruno area.
Right.
And a lot of the 30K players play out there too, seems like. Anyway.
Is that where they all win?
No, yeah.
All 10 of them?
Yeah.
The first day is airbrushing stuff, and it focuses in the morning all on the armature of the knight.
Yeah.
You're supposed to bring it assembled with all the plates off of it.
Okay.
And prime black. And then Caleb runs you through kind of different ideas about how to do the armature. And instead of being not what's the term when you do metal but it's not metal?
Non-metallic.
Metal metallics. He does true metal metallics.
Okay.
And he actually gives you pictures of what real metal machinery looks like.
Yeah.
And you start painting this stuff, and at the end, it looks like the dang pictures of the metal machinery. It's amazing.
Lots of funky colors, like
using metallics.
Yeah, using metallics,
coppers, brasses.
Yeah, and steel and
now, was this Caleb doing this part of the class?
Okay. Yeah,
so
and then
day one's Caleb and Kat, and then day two was the very talented Sam Lenz.
Yeah. And then the afternoon is all about doing the armor for the knight.
Okay.
And so the idea is that you end up with all your plates and your armature all ready to go.
Yeah.
For the second day, because the second day, Sam and the thing about a CK Studios class, people go, oh yeah, you go to class 9 to 4. No, those classes are 9, 10, 11 hours a day.
Yeah, I know.
It was a lot of painting.
It's a lot of painting, and
it was awesome.
And then the second day,
Justin has way more stamina for that than I do, because by the classes we took, by the end of the second day, I was just like, I'm done. Start back.
I got in like a Zen-like state on mine where I was just like, yes, I was talking and joking with people, but I was like, I want to leave this place with this thing like ready to go on the tabletop.
Yeah.
Right.
Not done, but ready to play with.
Every time there was any kind of break in the action of the talking, all of a sudden you'd hear his compressor go on, and he's working on it again.
Nice.
And he was just like
laser
focused.
You're a machine.
And they brought in, they even like ordered out for these big things of Chinese food the second day, so we didn't even leave the shop the second day. We were just going. And so the second day, Sam Lenz goes in and talks about doing freehand. And as anybody who has ever listened to anything on this show knows, I suck at anything having to be artistic. And so
freehand, let me tell you. A couple of triangles.
Eric Loughran and I were going back and forth with stick figure, just kind of laughing about what we're going to do. And then, because Dave Eves and Eric Loughran and a bunch of other people actually flew in for the class. It was really cool.
Right.
Yeah. He came down from Washington, and then Sam ran us through these ideas about how to do freehand and how to break it down. And the thing that Bryce is always kid about, it's just a couple triangles in a circle. It really is that.
No, it is.
But the way that he detailed it, and he actually the cost of the class is paid for just in the handout they give you.
Yeah.
It always does, yeah.
There's a couple handouts that they give you in terms of color theory and the freehand stuff. There's like, I would have almost paid for the class just to get those things.
Huh, interesting.
And that really broke it down in the way that he explained it was really good.
I still use that handout for like just the basic airbrush, like maintenance and cleaning and stuff. I have it. And
in fact, that airbrush maintenance piece, they actually got it down to a laminated sheet. So you can have it at your airbrush station and it doesn't get messed up. And so that was it was a great experience. I ended up coming away with 2 freehand things that if I look at it, I'm going, there's no way I did that.
It kind of changes the way you think about working on something like that, right? Instead of like, okay, being intimidated and just jumping into it, you go, okay, let me break that skull down into
its constituent parts.
Yeah. Its constituent parts, and then doing dots and connecting the dots of it.
Literally connect the dots.
And also starting with a sketch pad first.
Instead
of, because when you're doing a freehand, that's like the last layer that goes on that shoulder pad.
Yeah. And you want to be damn sure.
You might have put a lot of work into that. And I know everybody in the room was kind of like, okay, oh geez, Rick, here we go.
Yeah. And there was some people who they just dove right in and did it right on their shoulder pad. I will put my hand up. I chickened out. I only did it on paper.
No.
I painted it, but I painted it on paper. I did not paint it on my knife. Of course, I left partway through this first day because my friend Jeff Walker was getting married.
Yeah.
And so we went to the wedding. So I missed being able to finish up my shoulder pads and stuff.
Yeah, Don was all over the place that weekend. He'd be like there for a couple hours. Oh, I gotta go do this. I'll be back,
And then Sunday morning, I got called in the middle of the night because somebody called out sick. And so I worked from 2:30 to 6:30 at work.
Yeah.
And then had to go in for the second day of the class. It was crazy.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun though, Carl. A lot of fun.
Yeah. And my Mighty Knight is the House Griffith colors that Duncan Rhodes uses. And so I basically used his video to give me the colors that were involved. And I thought it came out okay.
Came out awesome, yeah. And on my model, I kind of foresaw.
Congrats, by the way. Yeah.
I knew we were going to do freehand, and I figured it was going to be the shoulder piece, obviously. And that Chaos Knight has so much crap ripping out of his. I'm like, where am I going to do this? So I was like, I got an idea. So I sculpted up a crotch banner for him real quick out of putty. And it was like, now I have this beautiful big canvas to work with, right?
Oh, man.
And it worked out.
And Justin took the instruction that Sam gave him and just basically turned it up to 11. And we posted pictures.
Got hit by the warp.
I saw.
We posted pictures of
the
Justin.
The pictures looked amazing.
It's amazing.
I was not surprised when they're like, this is Justin. I'm like, of course that's Justin.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this class is that you take somebody like me who can't do anything,
and it's maybe intimidated a little bit,
right, exactly, not more than just a little bit. And then you also have the range of somebody like Justin, or this one woman who was in the class who was a professional digital artist.
Yeah, she killed her freehand, man, and
killed it. It basically takes everybody, no matter what level you are at, and just basically dials you up.
That's great.
And what's really cool, it's a rare thing to be able to take people at whatever skill they're at and be able to give them universal information to take everybody up a notch. So, the digital artist,
as opposed to usually you're teaching to kind of the
lowest common denominator,
right? The slowest person in the class.
So it was. I thought that it was a really great experience in that way.
It was cool for me to see all like the culmination of the 101, 102, and then like this was like everything at this pinnacle. Like it all came together. And then you had guys like Bill who hadn't taken 101 or 102 and just jumped into the deep end.
Yeah,
hadn't even airbrushed.
Really, that was your buddy before. At the far end of the table,
Jumped
so
right
what you're saying is you wouldn't recommend this class at all if it's coming back to anybody.
I would, as long as I get my spot first, then anybody else can take it.
So you'd recommend it if this class is coming to your area.
Absolutely,
it's worth signing up for.
Absolutely, it's worth it. Yeah. And even if you don't play Imperial Knights, having a centerpiece model like that you did yourself, it's worth it.
Sure.
And it's just like in the 102 class, they paint these really amazing orc models that are actually, they're bigger than 28 millimeter, these big organic looking orc models.
Yep.
Again, even if you don't play orcs, the fact that you get to work on this model, the masterpiece that you end up with is just
it's tools in your toolbox, right? That you can apply to anything.
Exactly.
So, I'm working on a knight.
I'm trying to think of the name of the company that made that orc, because I was there when Caleb was looking at them.
It was the same company.
It's not Scale 75, is it?
I think it is.
I think it's the Scale 75 models. They have like a ton of them, and the orc is one of those, I believe.
Yeah. But
some of those models are amazing.
Yeah, they are.
Too.
Go to a class, guys. If you're stagnating in your hobby and you need you're feeling like you're not getting better, just go to a class. Or even if you think you know everything, you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I was a manager for like 15, 16 years. I had to go to a manager class, and I turned to Aaron And I'm like, I don't need to go to the stupid manager class. And then I came out of manager class. Oh man, I've been doing a lot wrong. Like I got to straighten this out. Like it was. You can always learn something new.
Well, and even if you can't, even if a studio like CK doesn't come to your area, whatever your local convention has or a large convention you go to, they all typically
here's
have
the
some
thing
kind
about
of hobby
CK
classes.
coming to your area too, because I see a lot of people go, "Oh, they're not in my area. Or I wish they would do this." Listen, reach out to them because if you can get enough people together, and enough people isn't a whole lot, to be honest with you. If you can get enough people together, you can get them to come to your area and do these classes. So I would say take some ownership of it. Be
the champion,
and be the champion in your area, and get them, get things organized for them.
You need about 20, 24 people, something like that, and you need a place to do it.
Is it really that high? I thought it was more like 18.
No, maybe it's 18.
I think it's around 20.
Anyway, somewhere around there. You know what? Reach out to them. They'll tell you how many.
Exactly right.
And they've been hiring new people on their staff and expanding and
I'm
going
so excited
all over
for
the
them.
place. It's
I'm
cool
so
to see.
excited to see them doing well. Yeah.
Just don't forget about us little guys.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, great. Thanks for kind of deviating, Adon, back to your hobby
and so
progress.
I used some of my airbrush, not skills necessarily, but confidence that I'd gotten back from this class. We were going to go to Geekend, which was an amazing time.
So Geekend is our annual. We rent a huge house. We have about 20 to 24 guys come to the house, play board games, miniature games, whatever.
Yeah, mostly board games.
Drink.
Yep.
Eat. We all prepare food.
Yep.
It's a great time.
Yep. So they were talking about maybe doing Blitz Bowl at Geekend. And
did you guys end up playing that at all?
No. And so I was thinking to myself, wait a minute.
We were also going to do a kill team tournament. That didn't happen either.
But there were several people who did play kill team.
I played kill team.
Yeah. So they were talking about doing this Blitz Bowl thing because of the game that came out at Barnes & Noble. And I had earlier that week or the week before had gone through a bunch of old bins of my High Elves stuff because Jeff Hummel was needed some High Elves stuff for what he was doing, and I sent some to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had remembered at that time I came across this old Blood Bowl High Elf team that I had.
Nice.
And so I was like, oh, Blitz Bowl, do they have High Elves? Oh, yeah. So I pulled out the guys. Tom told me which guys I needed from the pictures I sent. And the day I was supposed to leave for Geekend, I realized, I can't take these guys prime gray. So I fired up the airbrush. And
proud of you, man.
In less than 2 hours, I put paint on these guys, and I painted the bases, and I put black rims on the bases. And
good job. Good job.
It's black.
I agree.
So they're tabletop ready with just the airbrush. That's all I did.
Nice.
So that was kind of fun to be able to do that. And then I spent some time prepping for the Kill Team campaign that we were doing at Endgame using the new kit that GW came out with for their 12-week Kill Team campaign.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool kit.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to hear about.
It has these different cards that you use for tracking the games that you play, and they actually have a little rubber stamp of the Kill Team logo. That's the only reason I'm running it, because I could use the stamp.
You just want to stamp.
I just want to stamp cards. And
I want an Inquisition stamp.
And there's a way. Yeah, I know. There's a way to track the resources with a dry erase marker on your cards, and they put prizes in there. They put acrylic tokens in there. They put every 4 weeks you give out a best of faction pin.
Yeah.
They have medals that you can win. There's all kinds of stuff that they have in there.
That is really cool.
It cost the store about cost the store $75 to buy the kit. And so
man, I wish it were available just not to stores.
Yeah. So although for an individual person, I mean, all the stuff in there, it's made for 24 people or more. So I don't know.
More than 24 people?
Yeah, I think it's
that's even pushing us.
It's like 24 or 30 people. So it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, $75 for the kit. And so, we ended up charging folks per person to play, but we had to cover the cost of the kit, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really cool thing that they put together. And we've been going now this will be the third week coming up, and people are playing on the off days and building up games. And it looks like people are we have a core group of about 10 to 12 people who were involved.
Yeah.
We had, I think, 14 or 16 the first day. It always happens. You get a larger turnout.
How many of those players are kind of new to the 40K hobby?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I think there's 2 people for sure who are brand new to 40K. There are several people who are playing kill teams of armies they didn't own.
Sure.
And so they didn't start a new army. They may end up starting a new army, but they're playing a different race kill team. And then we have some of our old regulars, who maybe are playing, like Eric Falskin, he plays Tau all the time. And so he's playing Tau and kill team, but I think he actually put together some new models for the kill team.
Nice.
Right. So, and we're doing a thing where, all the models in your team have to have their individual name and that kind of stuff. So it's been pretty successful, I think, so far. We'll see how it goes. 12 weeks is a long time to stay committed to something like that. Mm-hmm. But the other thing we're doing is we're going to accelerate. If everybody who's playing has played the 4 games, for example, and it's week 3, we'll just go on to the next phase.
Yeah,
because everyone has played their 4 games.
No point in waiting at that point.
Yeah. So did that. Finished Born of Flame by Nick Kime.
Mm-hmm.
They listed it as a Horus Heresy quote-unquote novel. It's actually a compilation of short stories or longish
There's a bunch
stories,
of those,
novellas, and it's all Salamander stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
are they all written by Nick Kime?
Yeah. They're not all narrated by the same guy, but they're all written by Nick Kime. And
what are your thoughts on that book?
I like it. I mean, I like the Salamander's vibe anyway. The last story was a little... oh, he got seriously injured, but he survived, and he came back, and then he got seriously injured, and then he survived, and he came back. It was just a little like, okay, come on. Seriously? You guys are killing other Space Marines with no problem at all, but you just keep coming back?
Well, they're the heroes, man.
Yeah, they're the heroes. But it's very heroic. But no, I enjoyed it.
Heroic scale.
Yeah. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it better than the one I had listened to the last time we talked, and I can't remember now which one it is. It was forgettable. But so I'm getting through a lot more of the Horus Heresy stuff. Audible really helps me with that. And so,
I keep starting books and not finishing them.
Yeah. The long drive out to Morgan Hill and back helps me with the books.
There you go. My long drive to work helps me. I just finished Wolf's Bane.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the latest Horus Heresy novel. And as I posted on the page, man, I think, first of all, I think it's Guy Haley's best novel to date.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's probably one of the best Horus Heresy novels out there.
Oh, wow.
Like, I mean, one of the best is what? There's 49 of those novels now.
So many.
So I would say, it's definitely in my top 10.
Wow.
Top 5, I don't know. That's a tight
group.
That's a tight group right there. But man, I really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I'm in a chat with other people, some of whom work at Black Library or whatever, and it's just a private thing, and I was sitting there going on about how, I'm gonna make a Space Wolf army now, because some of these guys, are like, some of these guys are like, oh man, I can't stand it when people are like, I'm the Volca Fenrica and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm going on about, now I self-identify as a Space Wolf. I'm gonna, like, I'm just giving them a hard time about it, and they're like, we hate you so much, Carl, but I really enjoyed it, and I thought Russ was depicted really well, and I thought, in a lot of these books, you have a Primarch on Primarch fight, and then it's like, but then a crack appears in the ground and it separates the two of them, and then they, have to go. And of course, you have this kind of situation. I mean, we know clearly Horus doesn't die at this point.
Right.
We know Russ doesn't die at this point. So how does that all come to be? The way it kind of resolves itself, I was like, this is pretty cool, actually. Like, it was really a good book. I really enjoyed it.
Some of the Primarch on Primarch fights, they're both moving too fast, even for the Astartes' eyes to follow.
A week straight.
This has some of that as well.
Okay.
This has some of that as well.
Yeah.
The one thing it really did is it depicts Horus like he's almost in his full-on glory at this point, chaos glory at this point. Like, he is like swollen, with power, and his charisma emanates from him, and there's like this aura around him of like, creatures that like people can see like whispering to him, and so he's like,
sweet.
It's pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the depiction of him. I enjoyed the depiction of Russ.
Cool.
If I didn't already own,
did Russ have a beard or no? No beard?
If I didn't already own so many Imperial armies, I'd be starting a Space Wolf army at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of the in some of the novels, the Chaos folks, they're too mustache twirly sometimes.
Yeah.
Some of the villains.
There's a bit of that here. There's a bit of the Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah.
And,
But no, I really I liked the way that Nick Kime handled some of the Sons of Horus depictions in the fights against the salamanders, and there's a couple of them where they're like, we're gonna defeat them, but you still got to respect the fact that they're warriors and
right.
stuff like that. And so I mean, it's kind of like what was the novel I was listening to? I was one of them I was listening to where the guy who becomes one of the Galver Bach. Mm-hmm. Which novel is that?
I have no clue.
Okay, well, one of the guys who becomes one of the lead guys in the Galvor Bach, and his sense of honor and right and wrong, and how he has this conflict within him about it,
even through possession,
even though he's going through his possession. Yeah, it's very interesting. Aaron Dembski Bowden, of course, but really well done the way that he did that.
I didn't even know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so finished that. I ran Warhammer Underworlds event at Black Diamond Games. I know it's kind of not Warhammer 40,000, but Warhammer Underworlds is actually the official name of the game that people call Shadespire or Nightvault.
Right.
And no one had run it at Black Diamond. And so I saw the kit sitting there, and I'm like, you guys have all 3 kits sitting there. They're like, yeah, nobody wants to run it. I was like, well, I'll run it.
Man, where are you coming up with all this time?
And they said... They were, and I,
where are you coming up with the honey points? The wife
seriously.
points on that.
Well, she was at work that day, so it worked out.
Do tell.
Yeah, and so I just I ran it, and it some great people who came out. Some of the regular players from Heretic actually came over, and we had a great time. And
That's
it's
awesome.
A good game. I demoed it for a bunch of people who hadn't played it before. Jeremy Dale and his son were both there. They had never played it, even though Jeremy had bought it.
Yeah.
So I ran them through their first game, and they had a great time playing. One of the other players, the guy who actually ended up winning the event, his son, who I don't know how old Will is. I'm gonna say 9 or 10.
Sure.
He had never played, although he had assembled his own orcs and he was getting ready to paint them. And I played a game with him and got him through the game. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a fun day. And because I had all 3 kits, I gave out prize support for days.
Oh, nice.
And everybody just got a bunch of stuff, and it was smiles all around. And
cool.
as usual, I did stuff randomly. I had 3 $10 gift cards I could do. I just gave out randomly.
Right.
And so it worked out great. It was
It'll be
really
interesting to see if they do a 40K game like Shadespire Underworlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we have Kill Team, but like an actual 40K board game like that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see that.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll do like another tournament type game. Like I think this is their tournament game.
Shadespire.
Right? Yeah.
Or Underworlds.
Underworlds,
yeah.
So I don't know. I like the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not super drawn to it. And I think it's because, well, there's no reasons. We can talk about that later. But it's fun. But I'm not like, I got to play more Underworld.
Yeah. I put together. I used I just used the online list that GW puts on their website. They have a deck list.
Yeah.
On the Underworld's website. I always want to say Warhammer Underoos, but
Underoos because they're fun to wear.
Yeah.
Speaking of Underoos, kind of a tangent, guys. Did you guys see the new Fiend model?
Yes.
It was shown.
I bet you were excited.
Yes.
I was very excited.
Yeah.
In ways I probably shouldn't be. That thing is creepy looking, man.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Awesome.
And it was really interesting because the conversation has been for a long time is Games Workshop gonna
go PG
or not?
Yeah.
And it looks like that's no.
Well, they only went half PG.
Half PG.
PG-13.
God,
maybe PG-15.
Yeah. No, I think they did a great job. I think they've been killing it with just all of their marketing lately. Mm-hmm. The little video they did.
Oh my God, that video!
Hilarious,
oh
dude.
Man,
for the orc stuff.
The car commercial for the orcs.
So good.
Here's our leak department. Like after a photo leaks out of
with
that model.
Please just keep it coming. We
it was fantastic, and it was so funny. It's October. Where's my stuff? And then. Boom! Day one, they had a really good thing out there.
Day one, here's a Slanesh demon.
But man, creepy looking. I'm super stoked.
Well, they had orc stuff on the first day too.
Good.
Give me my Noise Marines, please.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. So I guess that's me.
You're up.
So we have a new hobby room. We have a new Astronomicon.
Yes.
Which is large
with a mini fridge. That's all.
That's all you're focused on.
About.
That's all you're focused on, the mini fridge.
Man.
This room's awesome, man.
Brand new blinds in the room. Let me tell you, these are not cheap to have custom done.
I do Lutron blinds quite a bit for my clients. And they're expensive.
I got the tabletop game topper, which is that right over there.
And I knew something was new
really
in here.
Good.
Yeah, and that is pretty impressive, actually. It sits on top of another table. It is made of...
Is that why they call it a game topper?
It is made of aluminum, like hard aluminum. This is the 4x6 version that I got, obviously. They say it's portable. The 4x6 version, maybe the 4x4 version is portable.
It looks like it has some weight to it.
It's heavy. Yeah,
what's the name of the company?
It's not sliding around. If you just look up Game Topper, I'll include a link to it. But I think it's literally Game Topper LLC is the company. It is
sweet for dice rolling. Huh?
It is a fantastic product. I'm very happy with it. Like I said, they say it's portable. It comes with a bag that you can put each piece in and carry it. But that thing is heavy. It is not easily portable.
It's one of the things where you'd get one of those little carts.
Yeah, the bag is super high quality too. Yeah. It comes with all kinds of other stuff with it. But they were everywhere at Gen Con apparently this year. Like, oh, wow. Every vendor was using them. And so I felt pretty good about it. It is not cheap. I'm not going to say it's cheap, but it did solve.
It does seem as high quality.
It does work for me. Like, it solves.
I got to say, I'm a little disappointed though. Where do you put your beers? There's no beer holders.
Yeah, there is. Actually, I took those trays. They're sitting up there. But if you look on the other side, Justin.
Okay, I'm happy again.
Get up and go look.
Okay, I'll get up. It's good radio.
Take the cork out of one of those, and you'll see where the beers go.
Yeah. It looks like Game Toppers with an S.
Yeah. I will. I'll include a link to it. But push up from below. There you go. So it's a fantastic product. I really like the table. We were fortunate in the fact that my wife, we were actually getting rid of our kitchen table. Right. So this table works great as a permanent solution here. I'm probably going to end up painting the table black.
It looks fantastic.
Matches the thing. Those are dice towers that came with it. They look like Imperial Bastions when you assemble them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you use them as terrain, I guess, right?
I guess you could.
Yeah.
Most impressive.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. I also bought 2 additional alpha game tables so that I have portable tables. I can set up like a large apocalypse area if I want. So if you need to borrow more for like any outdoor stuff, I got 2 extras there in that cabinet over there.
Nice.
I've got... Oh, what else? I bought furniture. I have another love seat coming, so I actually have this was Shell's idea.
And what did you call it? You were calling it something.
It's just my little lounge. I think I can't remember what I was calling it.
Yeah, it was some little gamer lounge or something.
Shell had said, when you have these game days over, a bunch of guys usually sit around on the couches and kind of are just chatting while other people are playing. You should really have an area for that. And I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So I got a little table. I got a love seat. I have a second love seat coming. Which will match that so people can just kind of hang out and chat. I mean, the room is huge. This room is larger than the apartment Shell and I lived in when we first got married. So,
if you have a nice, comfortable chair, we can call it the 5th beer chair.
I did have a chair that matched that coming, but I sent it back in place of the second love seat. So there's area to sit. There's a mini fridge, as Justin mentioned. There's this flat screen TV, which I will show you in a little bit what I am doing with that, Justin, while we play. And then we'll talk about that next time.
Cool.
So there's all kinds of things because I have a Chrome attached to it, a Google Chrome, so I can broadcast stuff from this screen to that screen.
Excellent.
So I do some pretty cool stuff there that I've been playing around with. I could probably set up another table in here. So easily, like if we push those aside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We could have 4 tables running in this room comfortably.
Yeah.
We have the Tuttle battle bunker.
We could do 5 tables if we went BAO style. But
Warhammer World West.
The what?
Warhammer World West.
Yeah, that's what I was calling it. Yeah. But very happy with the blinds I got. I've got artwork hanging up everywhere. Like this is...
You're going to set up a console to that TV?
This is pretty impressive. No.
A gaming console?
No, I don't. This is the non-video gaming room.
Yes, this is the analog room.
Yeah, right. So
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, this is the other thing I bought. So you'll notice the little stools too under the tables.
Oh yeah,
those are from IKEA. They run all of $20 a pop. But if you go to Warhammer World, at each table there's basically stools like this that you can sit at.
Good to have.
And at first, Aaron was saying, "Oh, they're too short."
What's the weight?
It'll hold any of us. But Aaron was saying, "Oh, they seem too low." But if you sit on it and you sit at the table, then Aaron was like, "Oh no, it's not." I go, "I know it's not. This is exactly what they do at Warhammer World." So
cool.
Kind of my own little private Shangri-La.
Little piece of heaven right here.
Yeah. So
living the dream.
Yeah. I'm jealous of me at this point.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Not to brag too much, but it is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky that my wife was willing to give me this room for it. So the room opened up.
Many good games to come.
I had to cancel my trip to Warhammer World. I was supposed to go out to Warhammer World earlier in September. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed away. I had to help out my wife and brother-in-law and sister-in-law and all that with everything that revolves around that. Hence the room opening up. But I was supposed to go out there and pick up my army from Dave Paints, my Tzeentch Demon army, which he had completed. And I was going to play him in a game and whatnot. And because I couldn't go out there, I just paid to have him ship it to me.
Yeah.
It arrived fairly quickly. Several had broken off their base, but man, he individually wrapped in bubble wrap every single pink horror.
Wow.
He was very careful. I mean, it's just...
It looks amazing.
Oh, it's a great...
It's beautiful.
Army. I'm super excited with it.
And even like his work and Colin's work, matches.
It
gels pretty well.
The demons, if I had him paint more Thousand Suns, it wouldn't work very well. But because they're demons...
Right.
And
And you have the blues and the purples, but similar styles going on there. Yeah.
And we went with the same basing on all of it.
Yeah,
so it
that
all
ties it in.
Ties
it together. That's a crucial thing. Yeah.
With black edging on the basing. But I couldn't be happier with that army. And it also works as the Age of Sigmar army. So there you go, right? He did some amazing work on it. The Changeling looks fantastic.
It all looks good.
I couldn't be happier. If you are in England, if you're in Europe, Dave Paints is a little more local to you than over here. But he does amazing work. He's very fast. It's kind of the successful model for a commissioned painter in the sense that he has a technique that he goes very quick and he can turn around your models and you're going to get a lot of compliments on those models. Even if you're in the US, shipping is expensive. Be prepared for that. His prices are very reasonable for what he does, and I couldn't be happier. This is the second army I've had him paint, right? I had him paint the Sheldar.
And he does great work. I keep up with him on Facebook.
Yeah, and he's a genuinely just wonderful guy.
Really nice guy.
It will communicate every step of the way. Like we went back and forth on this whole army.
And when we played against him and his buddy,
I forgot you were there.
Yeah, Warhammer World.
And we got crushed.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I got that. One of the things that he hadn't done because I didn't send to him were the flying bases for the Screamers and for my Heralds of Tzeentch. So I built those using the same resin bases from Wargamma.com.
Yep.
Just drilled in and put in some brass rod.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Painted it all black, sprayed it all black, and then just repeated the same process that we did for all the bases. So it matches everything.
Yeah, you posted the pictures of those, and they look really good.
Painting bases really takes hardly any time at all.
And you just get the power drill out for that, right?
Yep.
Just zip.
I use the good old Tamiya.
Do you
Tamiya Tuttle drill.
All right.
Power drill.
I got to get me one of those.
Yeah, you got a Dremel.
It's a hobby kit in
itself. The problem is the Dremel.
It's almost too powerful sometimes.
It's even on the lowest setting. If you're drilling into plastic, the friction melts it.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know if you run into that problem with that or not.
Not with this. This is fantastic, and I'll tell you what else this is great for. This is just a godsend for drilling out barrels.
Sure.
Absolute godsend for drilling out barrels.
Pinning in general.
Pinning, it's fantastic. I love this little device. I see
some assembly required.
You mean like you take wine barrels and you drill them? What?
Your gun barrels. You are drilling out all your barrels on your guns, right?
Should be.
The bolters, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Should be.
Yeah. If you're not, do that right before you paint the edges of the bases black.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about gatekeeping later.
You heard it here first.
I finished assembly of my Adeptus Titanicus. I have the Warlord ready for paint. I have my Knights ready for paint. Have you seen these in person yet?
I have, yeah.
They're fantastic little
Amazing
models.
little models, yeah.
I have not bought any of the Reavers yet because I haven't played any yet.
You want to play it, see if you like it, or are you going
to... before I go in heavier.
They just had the Warhounds.
The Warhounds are coming up. You get 2 for $75 or whatever it is. I mean,
oh, wow, yeah, it's really inexpensive.
I have a feeling once they do.
I think it's good. I think it's a good
G-dubs, man.
Oh, man.
Hey, you know what? You either buy it or you don't.
Listen.
Right?
Well, no, right, exactly. And if a game takes off, like I actually see anybody play it, then maybe I'll be
I'm not trying to
in
convince you to invest.
No, I know you're not. I'm just saying... I mean, I bought it, and I'm interested to see.
Are your guys
play
assembled?
It. No, I said I bought it. I said, but
into the pile of shame it goes.
The people
just bring over the symbol, guys.
The people that I normally game with, that I normally see, several people bought it, but nobody's playing.
Well, Aaron and I are going to play
this week. I think
Kill
Team is part of that. You know, once Kill Team dies
I'd be curious
down,
to check that out, man. Let me know.
Maybe I need
very curious.
Maybe I need to do an AT escalation.
Have you seen Matt Weeks? He had somebody else painted it for him, but it like a professional. I can't remember who it was. They look amazing.
Amazing.
They look amazing.
Nice.
So
I think you just CK103 them and you're good.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Just CK103 them. The other thing is Mason. You may recall Mason is the son of one of my wife's best friends. A bunch of people, thank you very much, had sent him Dark Angels models from their old.
That's super cool.
What was the kit? The collector box that came with the Dark Angels.
Is it Blackreach?
Dark
Imperium.
Dark Imperium.
No. The one before that. Anyway,
that one.
Too many ago. So he has a bunch of those. He's been assembling models. I actually gave him from my pile of shame. I was like, I'm never going to assemble these. Here, take these, go assemble them. So now,
he was here playing when you did the grand opening.
Yeah, we played a game. He got to actually play a full game. We did a team game.
No, you'd played with him before, right?
I played with him before, very small, here, you take these models and we'll kind of walk through. But that was his first full on game. And he really enjoyed it.
What was the power level on that game?
I think
you guys doing 50 power level?
50 power level each.
Yeah.
Team game. So went over to Mason's. I had got him Army Painter spray to just get him going, the green and the tan.
Oh, yeah.
So he can do the
Terminators?
The Terminators and the regular guys. So we got all those primed up, and we said, okay, next step is we're going to do these washes, and I'll show you how that works.
Cool.
Next.
The Terminators can damn near dip and flick like the old...
Pretty much, but I want to teach him right.
We'll teach him right.
We'll teach him right first, and then he can do all the shortcuts on his own. He's very excited about it, clearly, though, because like I said, I gave him a couple boxes of models. I was just like, you know what, just have at it. On the way back from Geekin', I must have got called 3 times. Okay, so I'm trying to assemble this, and it says I can give him this weapon or this weapon. Which weapon? I was thinking about giving him this. Mason, I really totally enjoy talking to you. Got to go right now. I'm in the middle of something.
Right.
But
he's just excited.
But he's super excited about it, and I'm excited that he's excited about it. It was a lot of fun. He's he had a drop pod and some other stuff we painted up. I gave him a flyer because I had a Dark Angels flyer.
Ask him to assemble the drop pod, right?
No, it was already.
We don't want to kill his.
It was already assembled. No. He's doing great though. I'm looking forward to playing with him again. So
that's so cool.
It's good to kind of raise up the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since my kid doesn't have any interest in it, I'll take somebody else's kid and stick it on them.
That's it.
Played a game of Relic with Aaron using the painted up.
The painted bus.
Brian did for you.
Brian Harvey had painted up. So those look amazing. I know Doug Neal hates Relic. Every now and then I enjoy a game I don't really have to think a whole lot about and I can just play through. So that was great. I received my Volcano Cannon for my Reaver Chaos Titan from, speaking of CK Studios, from Caleb.
He felt a little ashamed about that.
I don't know why.
He was like, oh yeah, I finally finished. I feel so bad.
I gave him no pressure on time. I was like, whenever. It's not
I'm just saying he put it on himself.
Well, he put that completely
By
on
the
himself.
way,
did you see it?
Caleb Wesenbach, Silver Golden Demon winner this last weekend.
Yeah.
Was he really?
Yeah, I won a Silver Golden Demon.
Yeah.
Congrats.
It was a Emperor's Children Horus Heresy team league squad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good deal.
I bought the Table War Baron Wasteland Fat Mat. So I was at Geekend. I played some Kill Team there. We'll talk about it in a bit. But they had the Kill Team mats that Table War has been making. Mm-hmm. They sent me one of the test mats just to have to play with. So we had it here the day that we had that event. And man, I can't wait to get my set of 4.
Yeah, me too.
They're great.
Yeah.
Double-sided.
Double-sided. They're great.
Yeah.
I'm really.
And Todd was saying you can roll up 2 or 3
into
a single case.
Yeah. So just super convenient to carry, super durable. Really looking forward to that. But I bought that Barren Wasteland Fat Mat because you were giving me crap about not having enough terrain. Well, I have a ton of desert terrain.
That's what I do best. Come on, bud.
I'm okay with that. It pushes me to go get more terrain or figure something out. But I have a ton of desert terrain, some which you built, I might add.
Right.
And I don't have a mat for it. Is the problem? The desert board I have for it.
Now it's perfect.
Is out in the garage at the very back, so I can't even get to it.
Now you got the mat.
Now I got the mat. It arrived I'll roll that out and put out some Desert Terrain.
Then
you'll feel like there's some line of sight blocking.
Thank you, Carl.
A little bit of a detour again at Geekend. Todd,
let's make it a long show. It's only one a month at this point. We're hoping to get back on schedule. Things have just been crazy for everybody.
The Geekend on the big tables where we were playing, Todd and Doug brought fat mats and rolled them out onto the tables just to cover the tables while we played the board games.
I almost don't want to play board games not on a fat mat.
It's amazing the difference that it makes.
Yep.
And it seemed like a small thing, but they were even there when we were eating.
Yeah.
They were so easy to clean up after dinner and stuff. But yeah, the entire, there's this huge table. How long do you think that table was?
It had to
30
be
feet? It was
close to it. Yeah.
It was pretty long.
It was a bunch of tables put together.
Was that the table where Lars was playing Jesus?
Yes.
The last
that
supper?
picture.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the table in that picture is on the website. But yeah, all covered with fat mats. There was tables downstairs were covered with fat mats.
Yep.
And
it helps to have friends that
that
run
own
that
the company.
But,
always helps,
But it was nice.
In fact, Doug was saying that one of the ones they had there was it was like a sample one. That it wasn't really a finished product, but it was the same quality mat and surface. And so that was the important thing.
I wanted to buy his Barren Wasteland.
I know.
He's like, I won't
sell you that one. Yeah.
Because he didn't want to sell it because it had some stains and stuff on it. But
and it had some misprinting because it was a sample.
And I didn't care. But the thing is, he wants to keep using it for a junk mat as well.
Is that what it is?
I'm sure that's it. But that's okay. I ordered.
But it was
one. And it was funny because I ordered it. I'm like, fine. So then I ordered one right there, and then I got the email back from FatMat, right? And it says, "Oh, thank you for pushing yours." I go, "Hey Todd, you're welcome." He goes, "What?" I go, "Well, I just got this very personalized email from you guys."
That's funny. I love game mats, man. I got to get rid of like 3 or 4 boards. I never use them.
Yeah,
I just use mats now.
I think I'm gonna donate my boards to like a game store or something.
Yeah. I gotta do the same. It's just taking up room in my garage.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And then, okay, so last but not least, I finished washing all my Minotaur's bases, so they're prepped. So now I can start, as soon as I settle on my recipe, I can just get them knocked out super fast and then start the rebasing project. So.
Good deal. So that's going to be pretty much your focus?
That's going to be my focus. So yeah, Hobby Goals and Promises, basing those Minotaurs, that's my next step. Adon, you?
Yeah, I wanted to do some more work on that night since I didn't get a chance to do all the pads. They're not called pads. What are they called? The armor.
Shoulder pads?
Shoulder plates. All the different, the top plates. Yeah, all the different plates. I need to do more work on that. I want to get the Rogue Trader kill team going.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How do you like those models?
I like them. It's interesting that they got the entire kill team on one sprue.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with the Nurgle.
The Nurgle and the Rogue Trader, they're both on one sprue.
Those models are so
brand new models too.
Yeah, brand new,
so
totally never seen before models. Lord Duncan did a video this week about the troopers and how to do their jackets and stuff. So that gives me some motivation.
You say Lord Duncan?
Yeah, Lord Duncan. Okay. I was calling him Sir Duncan. He's Lord Duncan now. And
boy, he's getting promoted.
Yeah, he is. And I think part of it is just trying to get the mojo to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just going in so many different directions right now. October's super, super busy. We're going to New York this weekend. I'm going to Austin next weekend. We're going to LA the weekend after that. And I just...
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, life.
Yeah,
happens.
It's just crazy.
It's rough.
Yeah.
For me, that you?
Yeah.
Just focus on that. Something will get done. I'm going to be focused still on my Death Guard. I really have a strong loathing of playing test games with unpainted models when it's so easy to get them tabletop. So I'm going to be focusing on getting the 3 Plague Burst Crawlers and my 10 Terminators battle ready, so I can spread filth and plague and it's been really refreshing for me too, because I've been so far down the knife ear elf route for so long, just to paint dirty, grimy, corroded.
So I have a question. A question came up about that color shift paint on our forum, which was, once you apply a sealant to it, a matte seal, do you apply a matte seal or do you apply a gloss, or are you doing like what's
it's a good question. I would say probably do like a satin on it.
But you haven't done it.
The color shifting.
I haven't. No.
So test it, I'd say.
Yeah.
A lot of plastic models, I kind of get away without sealing too. If you're cautious with it, it's the metal ones which this line has none of.
I don't see how that would kill the color shift, because it's just metallic paint. It's like when you satin over metallic paint,
but you
it may take the sheen.
That's my point.
but I don't think it's going to change the actual color pigmentation the way it goes on.
Interesting.
But I probably will on that. I probably will do a test.
I'm very curious to hear. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Keep you all posted soon enough.
So what about you, Justin? Let's talk games played. What have you done?
Not much gaming for me. Had a few games lined up and things just fell through. I've been really busy with work and life. So the only game I've gotten in the last pretty much couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, was a game against Austin over here at your little unveiling of the Astronomicon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you really love those open war games.
Dark Eldar versus.
Yep. So I brought the Drukhari. It was 2,000 points
versus my Volca Fenrica.
Oh God.
Your shield Valrica.
My battle brothers. Yeah.
Austin's always.
That's how we wolves do
Austin, I've only played.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
My bros.
I think I just lost 2 listeners that I know
of. Probably. Austin's a stand-up lad to play. He's always fun. Really nasty list he brought, which is brutal. Storm shields everywhere and 3-up saves, all of 3++s for days. But it was grindy.
Going to do it. That's how I would do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean his army list, and he's got the predators. He's got the firepower, and
it's a beautiful looking army too.
It looks awesome. But we did open war, which I'm still.
You don't like it. That's fine.
No, I wouldn't say I don't like it.
You hate it.
I think that I want to set it up with more context next time.
Yeah, I think
have a little longer conversation. Like maybe I see maybe for me enjoying it more personally in maybe smaller games.
Sure.
Because when we had 2,000 points and it was like we're a foot away starting out, it was like everything just crashed into each other. And
you have to. I mean, if you pull a card and you decide you don't like it, you just pull another card.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tried to tell you. I was just like, no. I mean, how many times have we played? I just did that one. Let's do a different one.
So the one that we pulled was like Dead of Night or something. So
so
all
no
the shooting
shooting
was just. And I'm like, I'm Dark Eldar. I should ignore this, right?
This,
There was a rule for that back in the day, and we probably should have redrew that card, and it would have been a little more. But don't get me wrong, it was a bloody game.
The thing I like is it just makes unique missions to it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't fit 100% of the time, but then like Adon and I don't think you're going to go to a tournament and be like, okay, it's open war, everybody draw. I mean, that would not make sense. But in a game where you can talk to your opponent and have a
I think Adon hit the nail right on the head of just like, hey, if you draw a card that you're not cool with, then that's not going to create a fun experience.
Right,
then,
exactly right.
Then just redraw it.
That's what exactly it's about. And
I mean, you could just make it a rule that like if either of you veto the card, it's out.
Yeah.
Sure. And then eventually you're going to draw one that you guys are like, I like that one. Yeah, okay, I'm good.
I guess it's kind of like that double-edged sword of like, do you feel like you're gaming the system in a way when you're like, oh, I drew this card that really hampers my shooty army, and the other guy's like, haha, I want to, I don't know. Ultimately, it comes down to having a fun game for both parties.
Right,
that's
exactly.
I guess the bottom line.
Could work though.
And Austin is a CK alum.
Yeah,
he is.
So good stuff.
Yeah, Don, you?
Most of my time has been focused on running events than it is playing individual games per se, but did get some gaming in. Got a couple of Kill Team games in, some Shadespire in, and
countless board
Underworlds.
games.
And a ton of board games.
Yeah, it was fun.
But that was a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good event. I played Kill Team versus Todd Kincaid Table War out in at our Geekend event on their awesome mats and cool terrain that they brought.
Yep.
That was Thousand Suns versus not just IG, but the what are like the elite IG guys?
Scions, Tempestus Scions.
Tempestus Scions, yeah. And man, at first it was not looking good for me, but then, man, my Thousand Suns are pretty durable. They're pretty durable at range. And I made the mistake of charging like first turn. I got a Zangor in range. I just charged this guy, and I didn't realize he's carrying a flamer. So that Zangor was gone. He's all, you want to charge his other Zangor? No, I think I'm good.
I'm good.
I think I'm good right where I am. Thank you.
Anything that auto hits, I can imagine, is very good in Kill Team.
It is very good.
Yeah.
And then during the game day, we kind of talked about it. I teamed up with, was I on Mason's team? I think I was opposing Mason, and I can't remember who.
You were playing Austin.
Jody
Austin
teamed
was there
up
in the game.
with him.
Wasn't Austin in that game?
Was on his team.
Yeah.
So it was 2 Imperials, and it was myself and I think Jody. I'm guessing. No, I can't remember. It wasn't Jody. Jody was playing.
Your memory is the
Kill
second
Team.
thing to go.
Well,
all that.
I'm sorry. What
all
goes?
the Osh fumes.
What goes second? All those Osh fumes have gotten to me. But I mean, it was a good opening day for. I've gotten even a little further in the design. I've changed the bulbs in here. I do need to get some lighting solutions in here for
the individual tables.
Yeah, a little bit for the individual table, especially that one over there.
Yeah.
But I'll get that figured out. And man, like you said, your own slice of heaven.
Yep.
Okay.
A lot of stuff.
Here we are, an hour in.
It happens.
Yeah.
We took a little detour.
That's fine.
There.
It's a month's worth of content.
Yeah.
That's
crammed
right.
into 1 hour. So let's take a short break. We'll come back, and we're going to start discussing kind of a free-form topic here that came up basically because of our Facebook group. And I think we'll find it to be a very interesting discussion. We will be right back.
Great Scott, 00. Foam Finger's destroying all the models with his rough touch.
Oh, Mullins Penny. Don't you worry. John is on the case.
How is that, John?
I'm going to warn the world that they should be using the soft blue foam with the hard cases. Foam Finger will never ruin another model again.
You mean Operation KR? Is the world ready for that, John?
The world is ready. I'll make sure of it. The only way is to spoil Foam Finger's plans.
Hard cases with the soft foam is the only answer. You've convinced me, John. Let's move forward with Operation KR.
The name's Jond. Jimmy Jond.
Oh, John. See? Give 00 John the figures for this mission.
Go to krmulticase.com for some of the best storage and transport solutions for your Army. Match almost limitless combinations of cases and trays in the KR transport system to suit your personal requirements. Reasonably priced, KR allows you to transport your minis safely to and from the tabletop, no matter where that battlefield is.
Hard on the outside, soft in the middle. KR Cases is where John always gets his foam. KR hard cases for soft blue foam.
All right, and we are back. And what we're going to talk about now is... Okay, so Games Workshop refers to their game, the painting, the playing, as the hobby.
The hobby. Yeah.
Right? The hobby.
Yeah.
And recently, a conversation started on our Facebook group. And it was started by Pablo Valero, who is one of our listeners, I assume. Mm-hmm. He's at least a part of the group.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of people part of that group that do not listen now, which is really interesting.
Really interesting, yeah.
Especially since it's really kind of focused
on this show, yeah.
And Pablo was talking about how he'd recently finished a 2,000-point army, and he wanted to celebrate with a game against a friend. And he said for him, it didn't end very well. He got tabled in turn 2. So he had just completed painting the army. He felt really good about it. Boom, gets tabled. And he says he likes Warhammer 40K. He likes building armies, converting models, painting miniatures, even planning strategies for upcoming games. But he's only really had fun playing in a couple of games that turned out to be balanced for him. And he says, does anybody feel this way? So I kind of chimed in with my thoughts on that, which is that a bad game experience. And I have both watched and played in bad game experience. I remember watching a game remotely that was being played at Adepticon a year I didn't go, and it was a top table game. Yeah. And one of the opponents was just arguing everything. I mean, it was painful to watch, and it really turned me off of 40K in general for a little bit. I've also played in games that have just not been fun,
right?
Which can kind of take the wind out of your sails for a bit. So I totally understand where Pablo's coming from, but if it helps Pablo, you inspired me for an idea for a show, which was kind of, I feel like there's kind of these things I call the pillars of the hobby, right? And they consist of, from this, again, this is totally made up by me. So playing, painting, assembly, collecting, and socializing, which I include podcasting kind of in that group. And if we break those down, if we break down the hobby into kind of those areas, I was curious, like, for where people rank. And like, I organized them based on what my favorites were, which is socializing, collecting, playing, painting, and assembly in that order for me.
I would not have put painting so low on the list for you.
Okay. Maybe painting could be above playing. Yeah. I don't know. But either way, like, as a rough shot at it, that was kind of my take. And mind you, this was a post I made like quickly and kind of thinking about it. But I wanted to kind of delve a little deeper into that and into these pillars and see kind of where you guys stand, because I think we're all going to have very different answers for what we get from quote unquote the hobby and why we play it and why certain aspects of it appeal to us.
I think we could tie it into Pablo's situation as well.
For sure. I mean, my objective here is not to really answer his situation so much, but I think we will in the course of this discussion. Then after we kind of have this conversation and talk about that, there was another post made by Tom Big on our group to an article called "In Praise of Mediocrity," and it was featured in the New York Times, the article. And I think that it was just an interesting article that kind of talked about the pursuit of being so good at something, and
how it infiltrates your hobby,
right?
Your leisure time.
Is that the enjoyment that you get for it, and not detracting from people trying to be the best at something they are, but to a degree, it shouldn't put you off. And so we'll talk a little bit about this article as well, and I'll create a link in the show notes so you can go read it. But I thought it was a fascinating article and it brought up some interesting points in my mind.
There was a couple of things I was thinking about as I was driving that I didn't think about when I was reading this, and that's not in here because in the show notes we were talking about listening to, reading novels, listening to novels.
Yeah.
And where do you put the lore into those pillars?
Well, criminy, that's a great point because I didn't even did I just use the word criminy?
Criminy.
Yeah. I think it's the Osh Primer, Adonis. I'm gonna get this guy one of those little spray booths.
Who's the photographer from the Daily Planet? Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy
Olsen.
Yeah.
Criminy, Superman. Gee Willikers. What the heck is going on with that?
So
that's me trying to avoid swearing and then turning it into something goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were to include lore in this, I didn't even think about that.
Well, I mean,
because literally be a sixth.
Because I was thinking about it in terms of Pablo's post, because he talks about strategizing and writing army lists. Because I used to spend when Army Builder was in its heyday, I would spend hours just on Army Builder.
Yeah.
Just changing my armies around.
I know Jason McCurry likes to do that.
Yeah.
Right? He said he finds it relaxing, just like building different lists.
And so I just wonder about that kind of that strategy / lore part of it. Is that a pillar of the hobby or not?
Well, we got 6 pillars now, folks.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I was thinking about.
We're doing it live.
I mean, it truly is. Sorry to interrupt it on, but it's a very all-encompassing hobby.
Yeah,
really.
Yes.
There's so much to it.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm going to add lore.
Are you?
To this
right
now? I think that is a completely legitimate point.
And if it was a different game system, it wouldn't be such a big deal.
But
there's 30 years of.
Let's keep the list building as kind of part of the playing thing.
That falls into that category.
I feel like those two are kind of married a bit there. You can't play without a list.
Right.
So, I think we can combine those two.
Okay.
But the lore is a very interesting.
It's a big category
That I didn't even consider. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Boy,
it would have been great if you brought that up before we started recording. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I mean, this is.
Well,
this is the
reason it struck me is because I was talking to somebody else about Drop Fleet Commander and Drop Zone Commander.
Yeah.
Because of Kickstarters, and somebody showed a picture of all the Kickstarters they had on a shelf.
Yeah.
Right, and one of them was the Hawk Games Drop Fleet Commander.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, and I can't tell you hardly anything about their lore. Their lore was kind of tacked on, in my opinion. It wasn't very deep. And with Warhammer, both Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Fantasy, or the Old World, or Age of Sigmar, or whatever you want to call it, just the Warhammer world in general, there's decades of story. There's decades. Dedicated professional writers going into the backstory.
So let's do that. I put lore last. Let's kind of circle back to that, because I think that's a great point, Adon. That's a really great point, and I can't believe I missed it, because it is such a big part of what you and I were just talking about, right?
Right.
So, okay. So let's talk first about playing. I think playing, when most people get into 40K hobby, they think, I'm going to play. It's a game.
Right.
And for me, this ranks, now that you mention it, it may be below the painting. I'm still going to put it.
See, the tough thing
it's very neck and neck with playing.
When I was going through these, it was like I always feel like I'm always kind of ebbing and flowing. Through
and that's totally legit.
As I go through this hobby journey.
Yeah.
That you might be a Pablo that plays that game that was really not the most fun experience. You had as what Doug likes to say, a root canal of a game.
You're about to hit on a very good point, though. Here, where you're going. Keep going.
So you say, okay, I'm gonna ebb down. I'm gonna take a break from this, and I'm gonna go read a book.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going to really focus on the lore and so
or I'm going to do that converting that I've been thinking about doing with those Terminators or something.
Or boy, this unit really let me down. I'm going to paint a different unit and see how that one works.
And I think that's important to keep in the back of your head while you go through. I think it's important
for sure
to like take a step back and where am I at in the hobby right now? What's going to give me the most enjoyment out of it?
Yeah.
You know, instead of like
great man, Justin coming with the insights right here. This is
every once in a while, man. I get deep, bruh.
No, but that is a really, really astute point. I think. I think that you do ebb and flow.
Absolutely.
Right now, like I just haven't been in the painting thing. Like, let me get somebody else to paint this because I'm not going to paint this anytime soon.
I mean, I know you guys have heard me say that a lot on the show of like, I'm getting burnt out on this project. I'm going to do good. I'm going to totally shift gears, and that might be like considered like quote unquote OCD or whatever. But I'm just doing whatever ADD. I'm doing whatever it takes for me to.
OCD gets you through the painting.
That's right.
ADD.
That's right. ADD is me and gaming.
But I think having that conversation with yourself, you know, in your head, not out in the open,
the interesting thing is so many things can affect it too. Like I go every time I go out to Warhammer World and I go through and view all their stuff, and I come back like super fired up. When we come back from Adepticon, I'm like, oh my god, I'm ready to. I gotta play some more, and I gotta, I want to build X, Y, and Z, and I think when you're on that, if you think of it like a wave, when you're on the cusp of that wave, like you gotta ride it, you gotta take advantage of it right then before it wears out.
It's like you were saying before, and I don't know if it was on or off, Mark, but you read a great novel.
Yep.
About a particular army,
like Space Wolves, for example.
Yeah, it's like, man,
I really want to buy my Space Wolf army. It's collecting dust right now.
No,
I really want to build that army, right? I really want to play those models, right? And so
you listen to a Show Force episode, and you're like, I gotta buy that army.
How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard that? Right?
It's affected us.
Yes, it has. I have a Dark Eldar army because of it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk playing real quick. Like for each of us, where does playing kind of rank? And I said 5 pillars, but let's call it 6 right now. For me, playing probably ranks 3rd or 4th right now. I do get enjoyment out of playing the game. I love, like, when you play a really good game, it's all encompassing. Like I really get focused on it. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the losses and the wins in that case. Like I don't care. And this is where we've often talked about going for moments, right? Like if something's going poorly for me, I start focusing on, well, I at least want to bloody his nose before I go down, or I want to, make him pay for this, or I'm going to drag this out 5-6 rounds.
Have that Chris Ross mentality of like, so I'm getting slaughtered. You got to kill every single orc on this table. If I have one orc live, it's a moral victory.
One of my favorite examples of that was playing back when Kubla Khan, when those guys used to run the Kubla Khan tournament all the time. And I played against a guy who was just decimating my Death Guard. And he turned to me, and I was about to concede. It was like round 3, and I'm like, I'm done.
Writing was on the wall,
And he turned to me and he goes, "This is about the time where people just concede." And I was like, oh, we're going all the way. And then, I was like, you will not table me, right? And that was my whole objective. Don't get tabled.
Don't get tabled.
And at the end of the game, I had one. What do you call the sergeants for chaos?
Aspiring champion.
Aspiring champion. I had one Nurgle aspiring champion left on the board,
giving that guy the finger,
surrounded by all these guys, and I was like, didn't get tabled.
Make him earn it.
He was so frustrated, and while that's kind of a jerk move on my part, just to frustrate him,
it's a jerk move to say that to somebody, because in a tournament that means you get max points.
But now I turned that event into fun for me in terms of I'm going to keep this guy alive. Right, I'm going to do everything I can not to get tabled here, because it doesn't look good in round 3. I'm going to get tabled, but okay. What can I do to keep from getting tabled, right? And
you start looking for the minor victories within, like, what can you do to?
But the other side of that is, like I was playing. If I play a really good game with Mike, we might say, you know what, that warlord's got to fight that warlord. Right, we got to make that happen. Right. Somehow that's going to have to happen, and you make it happen.
And I would say, along with playing Adon, comes something that you and I very much enjoy, which is organizing and arranging events around playing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you where you thought that.
I think that's kind of on the cusp of socializing, playing. But,
that's where I have
but
it
it does involve playing, right? You are getting others to play. You are actively setting up like this is how the game is going to work.
Right.
That's something I very much enjoy.
Yep.
So where's playing on your Richter scale, Adon?
On my Tuttle scale.
On your Tuttle scale.
The Tuttle Adon scale, because you added one to it.
Yeah. I think playing, it's interesting because I am not as much as, when I run an event, especially an escalation event, I make a big deal about your models have to be painted. But when it comes right down to it, I don't care that much because I like playing the game. But by the same token, I am done, I think, at this point of playing against people that I don't know very well just to play. I want to make sure that the person I'm playing is somebody I know I'm going to have a good game against. Somebody who's not going to be
if you're going to invest 2+ hours of time.
Exactly right.
It should be enjoyable. We don't have very many years left on this planet.
I wasn't going to go there.
We better enjoy the time we have.
Well, it's just that I've been to enough large events. I've read enough, battle reports. I've run enough events to see people who come in with an attitude about gaming that just doesn't match my own. They have a good time. Sure. That's the way they like to play. There's nothing wrong with that for them.
But it's important that your
But
time
I don't want
match
to.
their
It's
time.
not my thing, and so I don't really feel a need to play those people. And if I'm going to play, I want it to be with somebody that I know I'm going to have a good game against. And so I'm not one of those people who will point LF, looking for a game tomorrow at 6. I'm not the guy who's going to post that. I'm going to
to a very select group of people.
Right. I'm the kind of person who would, just what I was about to say, I might private message a group of people and say, hey, one of you 3 guys ready to go to play this XYZ? Hey, Mike, remember we talked about playing X and X scenario. Do you want to do that next week?
Right.
That's kind of where my playing is at this point. But I do enjoy having a good game, and I do enjoy playing. Where I would put it on the list, I think, goes back to what Justin was saying before. It really, really comes and goes.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Okay.
And right now, I put socializing and playing kind of together for me.
I can see that.
They really go together, and they're close to the top of my list right now.
Okay.
So that's kind of where they're at for me.
What about you, Justin? You just said recently you're jonesing for more games.
I do. After I go, week or 2, 3, I'm just like, man, I got to roll some dice. I
see. That's interesting. Like I never get that feeling. I never get that feeling.
I spend a lot of time. Like I don't really watch TV at all. Like my entertainment comes pretty much from Warhammer for the most part. I watch a lot of YouTube battle reports. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
And I think if I'm working on,
I know one you don't listen to.
Moving on.
I'm just saying.
Moving on.
We're not going to go there.
No, just keep going.
I'm going to keep going. But for me, I put it at a 3.
Sorry, that was super inside joke right there. But
there's a lot
if you'd been here during the break, that would have made a lot of sense.
This is bad radio.
Okay.
Who listens to Lords and Heroes?
Wow, he got it in again. Go ahead.
I'd put it at a 3. I mean, I'm definitely like a hobbyist and a painter first.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely like that artistic guy, which that's what got me into this. I mean, that's why you always hear me. I'm not a big collectible card game guy. Like my brain can only handle pretty much Warhammer and like Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
So you're putting it behind assembly and painting?
I'm putting So
hobbying and painting.
Yeah.
I mean,
so for me,
assembly.
You could call it hobbying, but assembly. And the reason I include assembly, it probably includes sculpting,
convenching,
includes kit bashing, includes
posing. I spend obviously all of us spend way more time working on these models and painting them and building them and making them look awesome than we do gaming, right? I mean, so some people don't. Some people just spray them red and whatever, and they put them on the board and they're totally fine with that, or they don't spray them at all. It's just a gray
I will
horde.
say I have played more with my 1,000 Suns than time I took to paint them.
Well,
oh my gosh. Wow.
Probably not time that Colin took to paint.
No. Well, yeah, I put gaming at a 3.
Okay, that's interesting.
And there's a gold Sharpie on your desk now too. After saying that,
is that one gold or bronze?
Oh, I don't know.
It is
Go
gold.
ahead.
All right,
Goodness gracious.
That's very interesting. I kind of would have thought you would have it higher, but you're kind of in a way. Well, maybe at the moment, right? I mean, in a way, you're kind of an enigma to me because sometimes you truly are. I don't want to call you Renaissance hobbyist for this game because there are aspects of it you don't participate in. Mm-hmm. You really don't read the novels like as heavily as I do.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the lore, but like for me, I'll start listening to an audiobook or whatever, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of the same old, Bolter, kill, death, but I read some, and I'm like, damn, that's cool.
You did do Black Talon of Horus.
I did.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a handful of books, but I'm like squirrel. I get distracted, and I just.
No, it's fair. I think that's fair, right? That's one of the cool things about the hobby, though, is there's something that can appeal to almost everyone,
mm-hmm.
which is what I find fascinating. When we were at Adepticon, I don't remember if you were there that year, we got into a cab, and the cab driver had a Horus Heresy book.
Yeah.
You were there,
I remember the conversation. I don't remember if I was there.
We're like, oh, you're reading this? He's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I just love this series. I've been just like reading it. Do you know anything about this?
Boy, do I.
Not really. He goes, it's a war game. Like there's miniatures and models and I showed him like in the back of the book, there's an ad for it.
That's funny. Yeah.
And he goes, oh, I didn't realize. I go, the biggest convention ever for it is going on in this hotel right here. You should just go in and check it out. I don't think he did.
Probably not.
But he was very interested in everything around it and just had picked up the book. I've never met anybody who's read a Horus Heresy book that isn't familiar
Thousand Sons was a New York
of
Times bestseller, and those people aren't playing 40K.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so playing. That's
what blows my mind even more is I've seen reviews that people have left us on iTunes and Facebook or whatever where it's like I don't even play the game, I just like listening to know what I mean, like
podcasts.
Wow, really?
Because trust me,
not to like
I am not that charismatic. Maybe you are.
It's Justin's dulcet tones. No, I think but that again, people take their enjoyment in different ways, right? Maybe their circumstances, there's nobody around to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Or that's their socialization aspect of it. So let's talk about painting because Justin, you put this kind of up near the top for you.
Yeah.
Is the painting aspect of it. What is it about the painting aspect that appeals to you? And we kind of touched on this during Hobby Progress a little bit. I think where you're going to go. But.
Yeah, I think that it's just the painting aspect is it's an ultimate journey that you're never going to be like I know everything. There's always a new technique. I'm always trying to challenge myself with new things to do and new things to learn. And just when I think like I got this down, like I learn airbrushing. Yeah. And that opens up a whole other chapter of my hobby journey that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
So then it's like I got to learn everything about that, and focus on that. So it's just for me, it's exciting. I look at it as an ultimate challenge of how can I make the. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie. I like when people see my stuff and they're like, "Damn, dude, that's awesome." I mean,
absolutely, right? Like there is no look. I can put a Dave Paints army on the table or a Colin army on the table and be like, "Oh, here's my Thousand Sons." Be like, "Oh, those look really good." Right. I'm like, "Yep, didn't paint them." Like this guy painted me, did an amazing job. I love that. I own it. But the year I went to Adepticon and put Ultramarines on the table, people were like, holy crap, like actual Ultramarines, because this was before they kind of really took off again.
Yeah, it feeds you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it kind of vindicates all that work that you've put in, really.
Yeah. And there's no feeling like it, like putting out a whole army and people going over and going, wow, this looks really good. Like
how did you do that technique?
And you really get a sense of pride. In fact, the way I met Zach and Andrew and all those guys and started going up to Endgame was because of my Tyranid army.
Right.
And they came over and they really liked the way the bases were done because I used water effects on the bases and stuff to make them look like swamp. And that was how I met those guys.
I'm just sitting over here with my Michael Jackson popcorn just listening to you guys talk about this. So go ahead.
Well, no, I'm really curious to where this sits for you.
Well, I'm sure that's an amazing feeling having somebody come up and look at your army and go, man, it looks amazing. You did a great job.
Listen, all you got to do is give one of these painters a couple grand.
Well, no, but again, as you were saying, it's a different. I've done that. I mean, I have models that are painted by other people, and I give them props when people point them out. But you know
that feeling like, oh, these look really good, and you're like, yeah. Cool, thanks. Yeah,
I mean, but it's not the same. Right. You guys are talking about the feeling of like it's Carl. You won a best painted at DunderCon, and right. Justin has won painting competitions as well, and so it's a different. That was, and honestly,
that is not my that feeling was amazing. Yeah. Like, I'm not even gonna joke. Like getting that made me feel really, really good about the time and effort I had spent on that army at the time.
Yeah.
And the reality was, and we used to call it the Forge World bump, was at that time nobody was using Forge World stuff,
right.
and here I laid out an entire Death Guard army in Forge World, and people were like, "Whoa, I've never seen this before."
Yep.
So that helped. I mean, no doubt about it. But I did research how to paint it, and hearing that feedback is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, at Adepticon in Zone Mortalis, not this year, but the year before, he asked people to vote for their favorite army, not the best painted,
right?
Their favorite army, and my Sisters of Battle won favorite army,
right?
And I was frankly embarrassed.
Why?
Because I looked at the models that other people had painted, which were way better than anything I had done, and yes,
people
the award
just weren't used to seeing Sisters of Battle. You feel?
Yeah,
or?
I think that's what it was, and it was a pretty well themed force. I think it's just that people weren't expecting to see them, and so they voted for it as their favorite army. But it was not.
It was not the best painted.
No, not at all. And so
the rims could have been black. And
yes.
No.
And so I think that it's not something that I ever really experienced.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But that's, I mean, you've painted individual models that you are happy with the way they came out. You just went to this painting class and, I mean, the things the techniques and stuff we've learned from the airbrushing.
Yeah.
You put a dreadnought on a table that you've airbrushed using those techniques. People are going to be like, wow, that looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did a Alpha Legion Contemptor Dread, the Alpha Legion specific Contemptor Dread.
God, that's a great model.
Yeah, and people have given it some cool compliments because of the model. The paint job isn't that great, right? But people get past that and they're looking at the model. They're not
okay, so where are you putting painting then on your list of?
So yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this because I love seeing the amazing painted models. I could stand there for hours and just look at that Titan that Caleb did for example. I could just stand and look. I mean,
he does.
I often do. I wake up at night and I'm standing out here looking at it. How did I get out here?
And so I really, really enjoy seeing the artistic piece of it. I really like the broad range of styles of models that are out there, and the way that the different ideas that people have for how to address them and how to reimagine them and stuff. And I have models that other people have painted that I think are fantastic, and I love playing them on the table. For me, the painting part is just frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I try to do stuff, and I know in my head how I want it to work, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can sit there in a class that Duncan Rhodes is teaching and have him come by and look at my stuff, and he looks and he stops and he goes, "Yeah, so it takes some time."
You said yes, Lord Duncan.
Yeah, thanks. So, yes, there are models that I've painted that I thought, it's a pretty good job. Like we talked about this before, the little Nurgle, the Poxwalker that I did in that class.
Yeah.
It came out pretty good.
He came out really good.
Yeah. Right.
As jokingly as I told you, it really did look good.
It looked pretty good. I don't feel the urge to paint a whole Nurgle 150 of those, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I love a well-painted army. I wish I could do it as well as that all the time. Yeah. I paint and paint and paint. I look at my High Elves army, and I did almost all of that. I did all of that myself. But
I feel like even just completing an army is something in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that is an achievement. It's like the Russian Achievement Award, right? Like quantity is a quality all its own.
Yeah. Well, I did a couple of the 40K Fight Club painting challenges. It was kind of the one that our forum painting challenge was based on.
Yeah.
And I completed a loyalist Alpha Legion army, and it wasn't any great shakes, but yes, it was a completed army that I had painted myself. The High Elves that I was talking about, I did a special thing where I sought out a bunch of kneeling guys. So the front row was kneeling, the second row was shooting their bows over their shoulders, the next row had the spears kind of halfway up.
Got it.
And then the fourth row, the spears were all the way up. And so it had
staggered,
a whole really cool cohesiveness. And when I look at it, I'm like, man, that's really cool. I had this idea and I did it, but I hated it doing it.
Let me So let's jump away from painting. Actually, you brought up something in the painting section that reminded me of the playing section. The other award I've won is Best Sportsman. And I've won it a couple times. My favorite one is from the Grand Noir because I have that wooden plaque that Chad made, and they look amazing. And I would say getting that award to me was more fulfilling than the painting.
It does feel good. Yeah.
Like, just knowing that people I played enjoyed themselves enough that they felt like, oh, I would vote for this guy.
Right.
As, because that's what I'm hoping I exude when I play. Right. I'm not there to necessarily kill or win or, but I think that's where the pinnacle of playing comes for me. If my opponent is having a great time, I'm having a great time.
But that's part of the socializing piece too, right?
Yeah. That feeds right into that. So let's talk assembly. And the reason I want to talk this, and the reason this kind of came up in my head was we were just talking about the basing that you were doing, Justin, and how much goes into that, where I'm like, I just buy these Wargamma bases and I spray them 3 colors and dry brush a color on them, and that's good for me. You kind of take it to the next level on that. Where does the assembly and conversion piece fit in as part of that artistic thing that you really like?
So assembly for me, I find it very enjoyable. I have more models like fully assembled and converted, but not done painted.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I tend to just move from project to project. I find building, unlike a Don, which I'm sure he'll get into, very relaxing, very just, it's kind of like a no-brainer for me in a way. I can just sit down. I can just kind of zen-like remove myself from reality and just build models. And I think for me too, you get that sense of whereas painting takes a long time to get that sense of accomplishment because you have to layer and layer and layer and so many things. And
you do?
And you should to get through that ugly phase to that final model. Assembly is like you can sit down in an evening.
There's something past the ugly phase?
There is. And so some of us strive to reach that stage. And then also for me, I really enjoy kit bashing.
It's like when a kid hits puberty. You come out the other side.
Are you saying Don never got past it?
I did okay.
Oh, jeez.
Jeepers.
So another big thing for me that ties into assembly in my eyes is actually sculpting and converting and things like that. And I think that's the best way to really put that custom feel on your force by doing head swaps and even, I have models that I've literally sculpted.
Yeah.
And I wanted, that's actually the career choice I was going to go for, is actually to be a miniature sculptor. But everything's gone digital and I can still do it. But I really do enjoy assembly, and I don't know why I do. Mold lines, I'm not a big fan of cleaning mold lines.
I think that's the thing I hate the most of assembly.
And I'm super anal about mold lines too, but there's tricks around that nowadays too.
So
I'm not a big assembly.
I put assembly kind of at the bottom of my list, but here's the thing. The thing at the bottom of my list I still enjoy. Right? There's literally nothing in this hobby I don't enjoy.
God love you.
And so when I say it's at the bottom of my list, it's the thing I enjoy the least of all the things that I enjoy. And, in general, putting together these little nights for Adeptus Titanicus, it was okay. It was okay, that's great, But when I was piecing together, I'm going to have my Black Legion guys, and I've got these extra bits from this company that makes these shoulder pads that I really like, and I'm going to want the aspiring champion to stand out a bit, so I want to put him in a particular pose. What weapon could I get? Once you have this huge collection of bits and you start piecing those things together, and you're adding a character, you're making, this isn't just my aspiring champion, not that I'm naming each one of them, but there are models in my Ultramarine army that I very much like that model.
Right.
And because one of them I based off Soap from Call of Duty, right? And I used green stuff to make a mohawk on him, and I made sure I looked up how do you do hair with, and I put that in his face. For crying out loud, it looks like him. Yep. I even gave it 5 o'clock shadow, and that's a character I really, really like. Converting my chaplain biker guy was really fun to see. I have this concept of how he'll look, and he'll hold the what do they call it? Crozius Arcanum, down low, and he came out amazing. I'm super stoked. So when I get into that zone, I really enjoy assembly. When it's just I'm building this stock model, I kind of get
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way. It's the character models and it's the centerpiece models that you can do all those extras on, and you can really just go to town with.
Yeah.
That for sure is the more fun aspect.
But one thing I do enjoy, even about, say, just like assembling a Space Marine, is, wow, if I tilt his pose like this, or I, have him point the gun this way, or maybe I just give him a different hand here, like I can make all of them look a little unique.
Right.
And when you're talking about Space Marines, making one look unique is kind of it's kind of nice. Adon, assembly. Where does it sit on you versus painting?
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking about this while you guys are talking about it, and I kind of go back to both the biker army that I have is, I call it my travel army because it all fits.
Right.
I can get 100 power level to fit in one KR case.
Right.
And I have that army, and which I pretty much built and painted all that myself.
Yeah.
And the High Elves army I was talking about, where I had ideas like, I want to do this and I want it to come out looking like this, and it actually does what I want it to do. I do like that. I do like having a concept and having it come out. I mean, my High Elves army was all based on Sea Guard, and so instead of having a wolf chariot or a lion chariot, I made a chariot that was made out of a boat, and I made the base look like water.
Okay.
And then instead of a lion, I had this big, super big seahorse-looking monster that was pulling it.
Okay.
And that was my chariot. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a cool idea.
How did the execution
The paint
go?
looked like hell, and it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to look.
How long ago did you do
that? Before they blew up.
How many years ago did you do that?
Yeah, 5 maybe.
Okay, so if I were to go back and paint my Ultramarines right now, I could do a totally different job.
Sure. I'm just saying that sometimes the concept comes out.
Don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes the concept comes out exactly the way I was thinking. Like those Sea Guard units came out exactly the way I was thinking, and they except there was no good way to put the shields on. But anyway, the concept was legit, and that chariot, I liked the idea. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to. I couldn't really figure out how to execute it that well. So some of it is having the idea and being able to put it into play. Yeah. And some of it is just being able to do it, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm the guy who paid someone to assemble rhinos for him. I mean, I can't.
Fair enough. So you really don't like assembly, is what you're saying?
Well, but on the other hand, I sat down one over a course of 2 or 3 evenings and assembled 3 Corvus Black Stars all at the same together. Yeah. I did them, all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I don't really like people like Aaron or Justin. They actually, they get energized by doing that.
Assembly.
He loves assembly.
Yeah.
I had him assemble a bunch of my 30K stuff.
Yeah.
Because the multi-part Marine stuff just makes my brain hurt. I just don't want to do it. And so, I mean, I will spend money to buy pre-assembled Marines, even though I have a bunch of unassembled ones, just because I just don't want to build them.
So, I mean, I understand, too, what you're saying about, like, the vision in your head not coming out how you meant on the table. Like, for a long time, I went and bought that tentacle maker and stuff. I had this idea for making these sorceress obliterators back before Thousand Suns.
You have to be talking about
right?
Those guys.
Yeah.
Right, because I wanted to have.
They're in the starport right now. Right?
They're in the starport, loading up into various flying vehicles.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
That's actually a good place.
Teleportation.
That's where all of my things are going to go, to the starport.
We're building a damn starport eventually.
I have all.
We have the room for it now.
Yeah, right.
And I have all the pieces for it. Anyway, but I had this, vision of these tentacles coming out, like from the waist down. He was just nothing but tentacles, floating on these discs, and I could just never quite get there. And as you were bringing this up, one of the things I was kind of regretting was, well, I've got a guy who's super talented in sculpting right here. I could have gone to you for help in figuring out how to achieve
You just gave him
that.
a bunch of wire. He just would have made it happen.
No. But what I'm saying is you could have shown me how to achieve kind of what I was after, not do it for me. And I think that opens up a point of leveraging the strengths of people around you.
Big time.
Yeah.
or
and I
communities.
think I don't do that enough.
Or
sometimes.
online communities.
Yeah.
And this is where the power of YouTube comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that we were talking about at work is that the 15 to 23, 15 to 22 age group in particular, they don't wait.
Yeah.
They get the answer on Google and YouTube.
Yep.
How did you do that? Oh, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. How did you learn how to do it? Oh, I watched a bunch of YouTube. I mean, they YouTube everything, right? And and it's super effective.
Yeah.
Right. And there's such a wealth of information out
Look
there.
at all people that just follow Duncan's videos.
Yeah, me too. I do that.
Amazing
Yeah, for
results.
sure.
I do that.
I've done it.
Yep.
I've done it. It's incredible.
So I think that's a huge thing to remember is leveraging the resources out there. And for people who are half my age, they're like, "Duh, you old man! Of course you do that." But it's not always obvious to everybody.
Those individuals need to understand, like, we were around before the internet.
Oh, here we go.
No, but I mean, my point is, like, we grew into it. They grew with it. Like, they grew up with it.
I still envy them.
My kid does not watch television.
Yeah.
Very infrequently do they watch television. But when you and I grew up, Adon, it was your parents would be like, get off that, stop watching television. You're going to melt your brain. Go outside and play.
Yeah.
My kid just watches YouTube constantly.
Yep.
And it is very rare to get them to watch a TV show or even a movie sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's just entirely, like, generationally we're changing. The generation before us didn't have TV, really. I mean, they black and white, but not like we do. They had two channels, right? We have 1,000 channels. We can watch whatever we want. But it's just a whole different way.
I was my dad's remote.
Of intaking information.
Hey, go change the channannel.
Remotes are funny. We didn't have a remote.
No, I was my dad's remote.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's why he had you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's right. It's the only reason.
I think this is a fascinating discussion. I'm ready to take a short break, though. We'll come back, and then let's start talking about collecting. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, this is Big Nasty B from Life After the Cover Safe, and I'm at a mall talking to strangers about Table War. Table War develops some of the most innovative products for the miniature wargaming and hobby industry.
And I develop pictures.
That's great. They develop things like the Fat Mat.
Who's Matt, and why is he so fat?
Well, first off, Matt is not a person. The Fat Mat is a tabletop gaming surface, and with over 40 different designs, Table War's Fat Mat has become a community standard.
I got a Surface Pro. It's like 10 inches. By the way, I'm meeting my friend Simbon. Did you know what that is?
No, but I do want to tell you about the Table War Tower case line.
Oh man, towers are so huge.
Well, it's not that kind of tower. It's the original modular, all-in-one display, storage, and transport system for all your tabletop miniatures.
Wow, you're really smart. What's your relationship status?
Well, it's complicated, but you know what isn't complicated?
Chili dogs.
This is true, but also the Macro Mat.
Oh geez, not that guy again.
The Macro Mat is a one-of-a-kind, innovative photography backdrop, perfect for collectibles, hobby miniatures, and small works of art. Its durability, portability, and functionality in one inexpensive product.
I wasn't paying attention to what you just said, but do you validate parking?
No, I do not. But if you want more information, head over to tablewar.com and check them out.
Table War!
All right, and we are back, and we are continuing to talk about these pillars of the hobby. The first section we kind of covered painting, assembly,
and gaming.
And
playing itself. Now we're going to start talking about collecting. So collecting is actually, having spoken to people at GW about this, is a huge part of the hobby for many, many people.
Yep.
When you ask Games Workshop, how many people play 40K? You get kind of different categories.
Right.
Well, what do you mean, right? You have people who kind of play it, one army, and that's all they play. You have people that collect and kind of ebb and flow. You have people who never play the game at all, but collect the items.
Right.
Where does collecting kind of fall in for you? I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah.
I've never had the Pokemon kind of gotta catch 'em all type mentality until I started playing Warhammer 40K. It's interesting. I wouldn't say for like for my Ultramarines, like I have to have one of every unit. Like I don't feel like or more than one of every unit, as the case may be. There are units I don't have that, maybe I should get those someday, but I don't feel like the need to like complete. I have every unit. Colin was very much about I have every unit of the Mechanicus, of the Adeptus Mechanicus, painted up so I can play any of those. I kind of feel like that with my Thousand Sons, but it's a much smaller kind of group to work from. But I definitely enjoy collecting different armies. And for me, it's kind of become about armies that play very differently, because I don't want to, like, I used to have a Space Wolf army. Remember, I bought one at a significant discount. I turned around and sold it. I like the Space Wolves. I'd like to have one, but I have Minotaurs. I have Ultramarines. Do I really need another Imperial armored army? No, I don't. But certainly I love the collecting aspect. People, my wife's friends have come over and seen the collection. They're like, oh my God, what is all this stuff? One of them was genuinely interested in it, and you got to be careful there, because you're like, well, okay, how much do you really want to know about this?
This rabbit hole is really deep.
Yeah, but for me, collecting has been a big part of it. Like, I very much enjoy collecting, and then enjoy seeing items I have purchased go through the process of getting into a collection. Sure. I don't consider them really part of a collection.
Watching them progress across your Kanban board?
No. They progressed from the other room to this, from the other room's closet to this room's mini closets.
Yeah. So I have, in that vein, before the podcast, and I mean, really try and think back that far, did you buy codexes for armies you didn't own?
No, I absolutely did not.
Right. But since the podcast, you basically make sure you have virtually every codex.
Well,
for the most part.
Even when we weren't getting any support from Games Workshop, I would go get the codex just so we knew what we were talking about, right? Now, clearly, I don't have to necessarily go buy every codex, but I don't also keep all those codexes, right? We will either give them away as a prize, or we give them to a member of our gaming community that has helped us learn about that army, that is playing that army.
Right.
But if you want to talk about collecting, it's not just the models and the miniatures I'm collecting. I got a ton of books over there that I collect.
Books, yep.
I got White
Imperial
Dwarf
Armor
books. I got Imperial Armor and Horus Heresy books.
Yep.
I'm not even playing Horus Heresy. That next Horus Heresy book comes out.
You're going to snap it up.
I'm going to snap it up because I, one, want to complete my collection.
Right.
But two, I'm also very interested in the material and this and this other. So there's, again, along with just the models, there's all the ancillary things.
Yep.
Silly pins that we get from events.
Yep.
All those things add to the collecting aspect of the hobby. And it never stops.
Yeah. I think there's, on some levels, that you get to that point of that, that FOMO, fear of missing out. I gotta buy that set. Well, why? You don't play that army.
Boy, I'll tell you, that drove a lot of sales for me.
Yeah,
that drove a lot of sales for me. There are things that are sitting in my closets that are just like, when am I gonna? I bought this thing because it has 2 knights. Okay.
Renegade.
Do I really need 2 more knights? Okay. Aaron, you're looking for a knight. You want to buy this knight. Here, buy this knight. Now I'm sitting on 1 unassembled knight. I have an assembled knight, and I have Chaos Knight already. So I have this 3rd knight in case I need another knight.
You need a maniple of knights.
And Adam,
Rule 3,
Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions. He did a whole thing about buying and divesting yourself of all this extra stuff. And if you need it, get it. When you need it. And I've given a lot of thought to that. But I still haven't been able to cross that threshold on many things where I'm like, I'll just get rid of this extra night. I don't need an extra night right now. But what if tomorrow I saw something cool and I was like, I want to build that. I suppose I could go buy it.
It's an easy hobby to just hoard. It's hard. It's hard to let stuff go.
Yeah, yep. It is. And I do not consider myself a hoarder in general. Like I'm very much like, if I haven't touched this thing in 3 to 5 years, let's just get rid of it. And we get rid of it. Here, though, there's something about this hobby that triggers me to say, don't get rid of those bits, or don't, I don't know what, Justin, you have a ton of fully painted armies and other things sitting around.
Yeah, which is funny because like I don't consider myself like it's fun. I don't consider myself a collector, but just thinking about my garage, like
but if I go to your house,
but see, here's a couple things. I've been doing this so long.
You have
I
way longer
worked
than
for
I
a Games
have.
Workshop for a number of years.
How long have you been playing?
Playing since I was about 10,
which puts it at.
So
you've been playing for 6 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You're 16.
Exactly.
For those who don't know, Justin is his youngest member of our group.
So, yeah. Yeah, a long time, man. Jeez.
So over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
See, for me, I've been playing about 11 years now.
And you were working for Games Workshop when you could buy the bits by the pound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But like at the same time, I'm very kind of focused on the armies that I enjoy for the most part.
Right.
Like, I'm not like, oh, I got to collect an orc army and I got to collect this army. I mean, I've got my knife ears and I've got my chaos stuff. And
there have been times I thought about selling the Tyranids because it's like,
right.
You know, I mean, I enjoyed it, but it doesn't click with me. Like, if we sat down, we were like, we're going to play right now. I'd be like, do I really want to play Tyranids? No, I'd rather play like Thousand Suns or something else way before I play Tyranids. But again, well, but what if I want to at some point?
Yeah.
Play
Right.
And I have them already, so it's like, why get
they're already
rid of
painted.
them? And they're already painted.
I think when it's like new on sprue, like when you just have like a game store in your closet.
Yeah. That's the problem I have.
Because once I build and paint something, it's really, really hard for me to let go of it.
That's a whole lot different.
Unless the model...
Now you've invested in it.
Now I'm invested in it, unless like a new version of it comes out that's like far superior.
Yeah.
Like if they were to come out with, re-release like new Chaos... Oh, God. That makes
Sisters
it easier.
of Battle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Adon is like all set where he is, but for me, like I've been waiting on that release forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as that comes out, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I hear what you're saying. If I'm glad I didn't buy the old Sisters of Battle army because Dave Paints at one point was selling one, and he said I could paint your Eldar, or I could sell you the Sisters of Battle army. And I went to Shelley. It's like, which one do you want? And that was a beautiful Sisters of Battle army too. But now I'm like, well, I'm really glad I didn't buy that metal one.
It's funny how those things happen, right, in the hobby. When you hold out just a little, nothing wrong with waiting a little while.
Well, especially at the pace
or,
that they release stuff
30
now.
years.
Right.
Sisters.
Well, that's the thing, is the pace. Yeah. I think the pace has a big part to play in that now. I think that when you were waiting 12 years for your next codex to come out back in the Dark Eldar days,
that's a whole different ballgame.
That's a whole different thing. You have plenty of time to collect.
There was a time you never saw Dark Eldar. When Dark Eldar hit the table, you're like, what
is
these?
that? Yeah.
Wait a minute. They do what again?
Yeah. And now they're winning tournaments. It's crazy.
Adon, you want to talk about collecting? Like, you've collected every storage and transport system there is out there. But additionally, being an omni gamer, not a mono gamer, like I've seen your room of shame, like you have seen my closets of shame.
Yeah.
You have War Machine hordes. You have tons of stuff. Heck, when we did our what did we call it? Not bringing by. I can't remember, where we were trying to get rid of stuff amongst ourselves.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, you gave up tons of stuff and
for a song.
And Justin's
I was shoveling it into my trunk.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to do the, am I ever going to play this stuff again? If I'm not, I'm just going to get rid of it. I mean, that day I took a whole box full of stuff.
Was it HeroClix stuff?
Yeah, and put it in the dumpster.
Yeah, we just tossed it.
You just put it in the dumpster. I mean, it still hurts me when I think about that afternoon, but I was just in this mood of like, I'm done. I mean, I had a whole army of death from War of the Ring.
Yeah.
Where I assembled and painted all the skeletons and all the riders, and it was a fully painted army. And I sold it for Lars for like nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I sold
You were just trying to clean house.
I sold a fully mounted Chaos army to Justin for the cost of the case it was in.
Right.
Because I wanted to replace the plastic case.
Right.
I'll get to those guys eventually.
But here's the thing. How has it impacted you, right? Like, would you have played that army now?
No, because I never
really.
bought the battle tome for Chaos in Age of Sigmar, so I don't really know how those models are in the game.
If you ever want them back.
No, but I don't think that I don't think that
they took a nice bath in simple green.
I could use some, Justin. These are the horsemen.
These are the Chaos
tons of them.
Knights. Yeah,
I got you, Carl. I'll give you a good price.
All right. Double what I bought them from a Don for.
Yeah, right. I think for me, it's interesting when you were talking about having all the units. When I first got into Grey Knights, which was one of my very first armies, my goal at the time was to be able to field the maximum amount allowed in the Force org chart of whatever unit it was. So the regular power armor guys, I wanted to make sure that I had 6 units to use as troops, and 3 units to use as the heavy support, heavy weapons dudes.
Yep.
And so I had the max Terminators you could have in a Grey Knight's army was 50. I have 50 Grey Knight Terminators. Mm-hmm. The maximum number of Land Raiders you could have in an Inquisition army was 9.
Yep.
I own 9 Land Raiders because back at the time, I was like, if I'm going to collect this army...
I've never even owned 9 Land Raiders. I think it might... Well, actually, now I do.
Unbelievable.
With the Minotaurs, I do.
But that was kind of the idea for me at the time was... if I'm going to collect this army, I want to be able to do everything that's in the codex for that Force org chart.
Sure.
Same thing with Sisters of Battle. So the next army I had was Sisters of Battle. So I have enough models,
right?
I have 3 Exorcists because that's the most you can.
That was the most you could have
in that army, right? So, yeah, I mean, as a collector, I wanted to be able to collect the entire army. Now, in terms of collecting,
I would also say you have a chapter worth of Marines.
Correct. But that was just a crazy idea I had, and I thought I was close.
That's different, though.
Wait, did he just say that?
Yeah, I mean, at the point that I decided to do that, I realized I owned more than 500 power armor Marines.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I might as well just do a chapter at this point.
Right.
So it's safe to say that collecting is pretty high on your totem pole.
It really isn't, though. I mean, I have no desire to have a Terminator army. I have no desire to have an Orc army. I have no desire to have a Thousand Suns army.
Well, there's armies I have no desire to have, but of the armies I have, I've collected a lot.
So here's where I've kind of
I would
evolved.
argue that you and I have probably more armies and models than the average 40K player by a long shot.
You combine all 3 of us together?
Oh, yeah. By a long shot.
So, but here's just kind of the reason I was going down this road about what I used to do with Grey Knights is now fast forward in my hobby experience to when I decided to do an Eldar army.
Yeah.
There was a specific kind of Eldar army I wanted. I wanted all the undead guys.
Right,
all I wanted were wraiths. So the only reason I own the Guardians is because I had to take them. Yeah. So because in the old edition I didn't have to.
But the collecting isn't just about now I have to get all the Eldar, but it's why did you decide to do an Eldar army?
Well, because I loved the way that they looked.
Right.
I loved the way when I looked at the lore of them and when I thought about how they played, it really appealed to me.
Yeah. Me too.
And so,
actually, by the way, that's my favorite.
And he listened to the show Force.
It was luckily it was before that. But the difference is that I only bought that list.
Right.
I didn't go
and you
beyond.
haven't expanded beyond that.
I have not expanded beyond that. So that's kind of how it's evolved for me.
Okay.
Where it ranks in the pillars, I don't know. It's one of those things that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, the Justin's ebb and flow thing. If I got an idea, I really want to do this. Like the Dark Eldar thing.
But you have
I bought them till I had them.
But don't you have a case at your home out in the living room to showcase the things that you really like of your collection?
It's just the bits and pieces from the various systems. It's one case, yeah.
Right. I mean,
so it's got a couple of confrontation guys, a couple of war machine guys, it's a little bit from each system.
Right.
The why of collecting is always interesting too, because everybody has
a different
motives.
Yeah.
Some people want to collect that top tier army at the moment and smash face in tournaments.
Yep. They're chasing the dragon.
Some people just like to collect the coolest models.
Yep.
And they buy one of this when they don't play at all. They just
Some people want to own every single orc that's ever been made.
Yeah. Not just every style of orc, literally every
orc. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about, I think, which is probably the biggest one for some of us, which is the socializing aspect of the game. I've said before, when I was looking for a hobby to get into, originally I was looking at RC car racing. Mm-hmm. They used to do these races over in Campbell where they set up tracks and everything. It was friggin' awesome. Yep. And they had like these barriers they would set up for all the tracks. So it was really, really cool. They'd have like a pit area. People had their kind of like awnings there, and they'd be working on their cars and whatnot. And
that's quite the hobby, yeah.
I super got into it. I built a car, went over and talked to the people. People who've listened to the show have heard me say this for a while. And I tried to like mingle with the group and learn about it a little bit. And they were the most standoffish people that I had ever met. And really turned me off to it pretty immediately. It wasn't just one guy. It was several. And then I saw a post on their forum where they were saying, because I was a member of their forum, again, a new member, I was just kind of figuring my way around, where they're like, we really need to get more people into this hobby, and what can we do? And I made this huge post about, let me tell you why you're not getting more people into the hobby, right? It's your guys' attitude in person.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. I picked up 40K primarily because it was the most popular miniatures game. I knew about it all through high school and stuff. I graduated high school in '88, so like that's how far back I go. But couldn't afford it in high school. Our D&D group, which we regularly played on Sundays, was kind of falling apart because people had family obligations, were having kids, getting married, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. I wanted a game I could just play one-on-one. But like many things for me, I'm never really kind of happy with just the base part of it. And I start looking for how can I get involved in the wider community. And so even before the podcast, like I would go to tournaments just to meet other people who were playing outside of our little group, because we were doing a lot of things wrong in our group. And it kind of opened my eyes to a number of things. And I just also distinctly remember having an encounter with a group of people who literally just turned their backs on me when I come and tried to introduce myself. There was like this elitist.
I'm sorry about that. I've apologized many times.
Yeah, I'm really never going to let it go.
You won't.
But at that point too, I also made a point of saying I would never do that to anybody who came up to me in this hobby. And I decided almost at that point, I wanted to become way more involved in the community and started talking to people about starting a podcast.
That's really interesting, yeah.
And it wasn't until Jeff showed up and was like, hey, you ever think about doing a podcast? I was like, dude, yes. I was going to ask you. So, I mean, because everybody else just made fun of me when I said I wanted to do a podcast, Lars. And so,
wow. No one will ever listen.
But the interesting thing is I mean, clearly this took off on a level I didn't expect. But the interesting thing is the most enjoyment I get out of this game, out of this hobby, I should say, is talking about the hobby with other people, hanging out and laughing and making jokes about stuff. I play almost to generate content for our socialization aspect of the game. Like it, I that's kind of where I sit in it. And to your point, Adon, earlier, you don't want to play against somebody that you're not going to enjoy and waste 2 hours. Neither do I. Like I'm just going to pick who I know I'm going to have fun playing this game with. And even if it's a terrible game, we're laughing about it or whatever the case may be and moving on. Right. So I think that to me, like this is absolutely my number one part of the hobby, and going to playing in the Sportsmanship Award. Like that is the most important award to me.
Yeah.
Top General. I mean, would I, if I won Top General, first off, what cold day in hell happened?
I was going to say, what event is that going to be?
That I rolled sixes that entire event. But the reality is, like, that's not what I'm shooting for. I'm always shooting for best sportsman. Like, if I have fun, and that's a win for me.
I think the hobby would be a better place if more people had that mentality. Not to say that our hobby isn't full of amazing champions.
There's a whole lot of people in our community, and by our community I mean the independent characters community, that definitely follow that mantra.
Absolutely.
And how many times have I had to say on the board, Don, you've probably seen it, where people something starts turning into a flame war, and I put a stop to it and I say, remember where you are. What this community is about supporting each other and sharing fun. And if you're here to argue, I'm not saying we can't have disagreements, and we've already had them tonight.
The number of times I've put on there, just put one line, keep it civil.
Yeah.
And I've actually had people message me, hey, thanks for that. I think it was going to go off the rails.
Yeah. But for me, it's really about remember where you are and what we stand for here.
Yep, absolutely.
And so to your point, I agree. If the hobby were more if more people in the hobby follow that, I would certainly like it. I don't know if other people would, but I would certainly like it. And I think we have developed a like-minded group of listeners and followers
and local gamers
who recognize, and certainly local gamers. Yeah. We have a huge local game scene here. It certainly wasn't hurt by the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah. So
if you ever, when you decide to play in that tournament at Mason's school, you'll win top general.
Yeah, I'm going to crush those little kids. First off, here's what I'm going to tell you: never play a little kid in a tournament.
No.
Never. It's a no-win situation. You either lose to the kid and all your friends make fun of you for losing to a kid.
Or you crush the kid.
Or you crush the kid. And everybody, you're a jerk for crushing the kid.
Club
there's no right. It's just
club
like
him.
It's just like playing against your wife. There's
never
a right answer.
There's no right. But you
never win against
and then taking it to the next level. I mean, the socialization of the podcast is kind of to a degree, the pinnacle of that socialization aspect. You saw, Justin, as we went to Adepticon this year.
Apparently there's a lot of people that are part of our gaming group.
Yeah. And a lot of people come up to you, and that's not
part of our gaming group.
I'm not. It's fun. It's awesome.
I'm not trying to brag about that. That's certainly what I'm saying is we've developed friendships that.
Well, no, I was saying as Justin was saying, what is the mission of the podcast?
Yeah.
To make you feel like part of our gaming group,
absolutely.
and that's how it comes. As people come
I
up,
hope
and
that's how it comes across.
Exactly.
I mean, look at Austin.
Yeah,
Austin. We met in Adepticon.
Doug
listened to the show, and
part of
Doug
the gaming
never
group.
listened to the show before coming here. But Austin listened to the show.
Shoot, I met you through the podcast.
You
Chris,
met me through the podcast.
A dude does a podcast right up the road from you.
Yeah.
God, my life's never been the same. Damn it, Chris.
I mean, it's just, to me, this entire game is about socialization. And when we talk about social contracts and we talk about that kind of thing, I'm like, yeah, of course you do. Of course you have a social contract with the person across from you.
I mean, you're always going to have those personality conflicts where it just doesn't work out.
Of course.
Of course. It's going to happen. I mean, you can't.
Even within our group, right? Yep. There's people who don't get along with each other or whatever. And we just, okay.
Or even between people who are friends, you might have a momentary flare up or whatever.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we
like
get
the
really
time of Don
comfortable.
punched me in the face.
I mean, hell, Doug and I had some games where it got a little. We were both out to win at times, and we had a little heated moments, but we still hugged it out at the end and took a drink of scotch together. Stuff's going to happen during games.
Sure. Anyway, I mean, anything to add to that social aspect of it that I didn't? I'm sorry, I probably kind of.
Yeah,
no, you're on fire,
right
man.
over all of
Justin,
it.
how's socializing? How's that work for you?
Has it changed for you
in the pillars?
Yeah, first off the pillars, but also how's it changed for you since the podcast, or has it?
I think it has, because there's been a lot. It's made it better for me. There's been a lot more people that have, obviously heard our voices and seen our work. Where we post pictures and people reach out. How'd you do that? How'd you do this? And I'm talking to all kinds of people that I never would be talking with otherwise.
Yeah.
I have people hit me up all the time on Messenger, like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this paint job? Do you have any feedback?"
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah. And
like you said, I've made more friends. I know more people that I've never even met in real life, but I've had so many conversations with them online that I almost feel like they're a friend. It's bizarre.
Yeah, what's really interesting is how it goes from that digital space to then you go to Adepticon.
Yeah, and you see them face to face.
Meet them face to face. I mean, Shell jokes all the time about how I'm picking up men on the internet, but I mean, that's how we meet, right? We meet online, and then it's like we all converge at a convention, and then and sometimes there's not a friendship connection there, right? But then a lot of times there is, and you're just like, I think Austin is a perfect example of that. Like, as soon as I was playing Ian, and Austin's like, "Well, I'm moving to the Bay Area," I'm like, "You have to come to our group. Like, you are going to get along with everybody there." And I don't know anybody who hasn't met Austin and been like, "I can't stand that guy." Like, everybody's like, "Yeah, Austin's cool." Yep. I'm still amazed he was able to name like 14 out of 15 people after 5 beers, and we just introduced them once.
Truly amazing. Yep. Yeah, no, I love the socializing aspect of it. I mean, ultimately, at the end, for the gaming aspect, getting out there, meeting new people, whether you get along or not, more often than not, you're going to get along with the dude across from you, right? And I've made some amazing friends in this hobby. So I put mine. I mean, it's so hard to decide, but mine was at 4. Just because I do tend to enjoy more of, like, I'm kind of a solitude type guy. I like to kind of shelter away from the world at times and put my metal on and work on my models. And then leave the man cave and go out and make some new friends. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to.
Don?
Yeah, so I had an interesting experience with this back in the days of message boards. I played it when I first got into gaming again as an adult. It was with a card game, and we had a community of people in the forum for that card game, and it was a similar kind of thing where you're interacting with each other all day, not all day, but many times a week, and posts going back and forth. We had developed our own kind of abbreviations and things, different codes for different things. And then I went to Gen Con and played in the World Championships there and met a lot of the people that I had been talking to daily.
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of thing, right? And it was, and back then you didn't have, first of all, people didn't use their real names. And you never saw their picture.
Right.
It was always some avatar, and it was always some name that was their tag name. Like I was black sort across all these different message boards, and so you'd meet people. And in fact, at Gen Con, we actually put our board names on our badge,
because
so people know that's how people know you, right? Yeah. And like the guy who was one of the world champions, John Bruno, he was Mathlete. Everybody knew him as Mathlete.
Right.
Nobody knew him as John.
Right.
And one of the nicest guys I ever knew. He's from LA. And so it was a similar kind of experience in that way. But it was different when you actually get to do it in person and meet people in person. It makes it even that much better. It's interesting. I was thinking about this week with the Age of Sigmar Champions card game, because they have the tabletop game and then there's a digital version, right? And for me, the online version is fine. It's a great port of the tabletop game, but I don't enjoy it half as much as when I'm playing against with somebody on the table.
Right.
And there's people who they use the tabletop simulators to play 40K.
Yeah.
And that would be okay, but I have more fun when we're standing in the same room and somebody rolls 3 6s and we all go, that's great. Oh my God.
For sure.
And you're taking pictures of the 6 1s they rolled or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's that part of it is just so cool.
It's just pure analog, you just can't, you can't replicate
and
that
so,
through.
it was interesting to reflect on this over the course of time in the different ways of that socialization. For me, I discovered that I really kind of enjoy running events, right? And just watching a room of 20 people having a great time because of something you set up.
Definitely ties into that.
It's a great feeling, right? And there's so many events where I don't even play, or I'm the ringer or whatever.
You're still getting that hobby.
But I'm still getting that hobby high of watching people play and enjoy it and talk about it and having a great time and giving out prizes and all that kind of stuff. The thing that I don't like about socializing is this idea of gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And gatekeeping.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you've seen it more. You see it more on the internet, obviously, but as more and more quote unquote nerd things become mainstream, Star Wars being an excellent example, you have people who are really kind of upset that this thing that everybody used to think was weird or niche or kind of geeky, now is something that's mainstream. So so you feel kind of like put out that everybody's kind of jumping on the thing that you've known forever.
Right.
So, somebody's wearing a Nirvana shirt and you go, oh, so who's the drummer?
What's your favorite Nirvana song?
Who's the lead singer? Oh, yeah, you're good. I'm not
you
talking to you.
You don't know enough, so you can't be a part of the club.
There was a classic picture of Natalie Portman wearing a T-shirt that said "Stop Wars."
I saw that.
Instead of Star Wars.
And people are like,
and this guy's like, I bet you she's never even seen the prequels. Blah, 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 blah. And
doesn't realize it's Natalie Portman.
You understand that's Natalie Portman, right?
She was in them.
Right. But it's this idea that, and it's kind of where I kind of worry sometimes about this. You must play with fully painted models. If your bases don't have black rims, you're not a good enough gamer, right? Or whatever. It's that idea of gatekeeping that sometimes I worry about, right? And that I want to make sure that we're not keeping people out because we're being elitist about it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so
super critical.
Yeah. So like yesterday,
I think it's important to let's
to put it in context.
Fully painted thing too, right? You help those people along.
Sure. Yeah.
But you may find that those people just do not enjoy that aspect of this.
Right. And so like for example, the Underoos event that I ran yesterday, about half the people, they just had the press fit models that they were using. They were not painted.
Right.
And I didn't make I said nothing about paint at all. It wasn't required. It wasn't suggested. It was nothing. I mean, the guy who won, he had a fully painted crew.
Right.
That was great. But the woman who had most glory and got the second trophy, they were the basic green plastic orcs. Right. And I was totally okay with that, because that wasn't the focus of that event. It's all about context, right? So the Escalation League, it was required because that was the context of that event.
Was get stuff painted
to escalate your army. So yeah, I just wonder, and I just worry about, as we talk about our hobby and we talk about all these different aspects of the hobby and what's a good enough painter, and this goes back to that thing about mediocrity, that in praise of mediocrity. You know, it's like, yeah, you painted your stuff. Oh, but this is the classic thing with historicals. Well, you know, they didn't have those colored buttons on their uniforms until Napoleon went into their winter. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to paint all my guys pink. So I worry about that. That's the part of the socialization piece that I think that many of us can fall into, and I will raise my hand if we're not careful.
So what you're saying is just be cool. Everybody be cool.
or try to see where that person is at in terms of their approach to the hobby.
Yeah.
Maybe the painting and assembly is not part of the pillars that they find important. Maybe for them it's all about the lore and the playing, right? And they read a really cool novel about Thousand Suns, and so they put together, they had somebody assemble all these Thousand Suns guys for them. They're going to play with them because that's what they're interested in. And I just want to make sure that we're constantly thinking about why is it fun for that other person?
Right.
Assembly and painting maybe are the number one and number two Kiefer pillars, right? But they may not be the 1 and 2 Tejada pillars.
That's a good point.
Right. And so where's the other person at, and are you okay with that? And let's try not to be like the really elitist, the gatekeepers.
Yeah. No, it's a good call. You can now step down off the soapbox.
Don't
let me back up on it.
You had the questions on here in the notes. What do you dislike about socializing?
No, I'm not. No, I'm totally teasing. I've been on my soapbox this whole stupid.
Don't be a hobby hipster. Is what you're saying.
So let's move into the 6th pillar, the new pillar, the one I neglected, which is lore.
Yeah.
And Don, I mean, I feel like an idiot for not including it until you said.
I feel like an idiot for not mentioning it before today.
Beginning of the thing, because I have read nearly all the Horus Heresy books. I've read all of those Horus Heresy black tomes from Forge World.
I'm looking at this shelf over here. I think those are all the Space Marine battle books.
That is, I think, almost all the Space Marine battle books. I mean, and I gave away a lot of books because I started doing Kindle instead of actually, because I travel so much. Kindle is just so much more convenient. But what's interesting is when I started in 40K, I didn't know a whole lot about the lore. Right. I really didn't.
Me neither.
I knew there were a few of these chapters. I had the Space Marine book. I understood there was the Emperor of Mankind, and then there's monsters.
Just the basics, yeah.
And chaos. Got it. Chaos. Spiky Marines. Okay, got it.
Spiky Marines.
And so, I mean, I didn't understand the layers of complexity that have been added, to be fair, and iterated upon. But now the lore is so deep, as you said, well, actually, the salamanders didn't have that color when they were in I mean, there are so many layers to it that it's fascinating. It's fascinating how deep that hole goes. Like my wife's friend coming over and being fascinated and wanting to know more about this, and me saying, how much do you really want to know? Because I could go on for hours.
I was thinking about this with the Adepticon 30K event.
Yeah.
And somebody had a chapter that wasn't painted in the colors of that Horus Heresy chapter.
Right.
And there were some very upset people, right? Because they treat it like a historical game.
Yes.
Right?
And I think the approach to Horus Heresy gaming is very different than the 40K
but it's like,
approach.
I'm sorry, it's not really historical. It's all made up.
It's future history.
Yeah, it's future history. Right?
That's what Jeff and I used to call it, right? It's 30K. It's in the past from the current timeline.
Right. But so it's interesting.
And I got to tell you, I kind of agree.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And that's the thing.
Why are those painted pink? They were no such thing, you know?
Right. Those World Eaters weren't red yet.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I prefer 40K, because you say, well, my chapter is pink.
Right. You absolutely can. But now I'm fine with variations on those, but I'm one of those people that's like, well, actually.
But at the same time, you're not going to walk up and say some, like, what are you thinking?
No,
you know
not
what I mean?
at all.
Like, you might look at it and go, that's not my cup of tea.
That's not for me. That's my common,
right.
He'll laugh about it over a beer with somebody else later, but not to the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, obviously a lot of work went into it, and he likes it, and ultimately, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Do you
that's
like
my point. That's my point.
Fine,
is
that's
like
what matters.
if they are getting joy out of it, who cares if they're white with green and purple trim?
It's not ruining my joy, right?
Right.
I can just choose not to play them.
Right.
With their white and green and purple trim.
Yeah.
Don, don't think I didn't see what you did there. I was waiting for it.
Okay.
I was on Overwatch.
Well, right? If you do a Call of Duty dude, right? You got a guy who looks just like Call of Duty.
That's right.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that unless I pointed it out.
Uh-huh.
Subtle.
It's subtle.
It's all about the subtlety.
It's subtle. I think lore plays a huge part for me now, especially as I've made friends who literally write the lore.
Yeah. That makes a difference.
And to a degree, some of these guys are, like, in the conversations I'm having with them, they're like, I'm proofreading such and such's book, and I can't believe they called this that. And I'm like, is that wrong? Like, I had no idea. Okay. I mean, yeah, of course.
Of course, yeah. Why would they say
what
that?
What an idiot.
Yeah.
But lore for you seems to be a bit less, Justin. You're not reading the books and novels.
I enjoy it. I'm just not as diehard as you guys,
But you're very particular about the way your Dark Eldar,
Yes.
Drukhari.
I'm all about immersing myself in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and my Dark Eldar are going to be dark and nasty. My Nurgle are going to be disgusting looking.
But what I'm saying is, like, you understand the relationships between the units, not necessarily on the table, but like this is what
in the
their
background.
purpose is in the culture of the Dark Eldar, the Drukhari. Right. I mean, do you gather all that information just from the codex and I guess online discussion?
It's more the codex books, and then just a novel here or there that catches my fancy.
Okay.
If I'm trying to get like inspired for a project, I may pick up a book for that army just to. And sometimes it's the the other side of that where you read a book just out of the blue and you're like, oh man, like I read what's the Khorne heresy novel.
Betrayer?
Betrayer.
Yeah.
I read Betrayer, and I was like, I want to do the butcher. I felt the butcher's nails biting into my skull, So it does have that, and maybe that's also why I tend to stay away from
not
them
read the novels,
because it's just
just gonna feed the beast.
Some of them are inspiring, and you want to do that army, and you want to model those characters up.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I mean, for a long time, all I was reading was 40K fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, that's all I was reading, and I kind of burned myself out on it a bit. But so I would say probably for the last year, I've been kind of picking and choosing very carefully which 40K or Horus Heresy novels I'm reading. And now, especially after Wolfsbane, I'm kind of like, oh, what else can I read out there?
Yeah.
There's
Wolves.
really, really some solid stuff out there. So and if I can add just real quick, I feel like the stable of Black Library authors and the with the editors involved and everything, the level of writing has matured significantly. From where it was back in the 90s.
Yeah, a lot more character development going on.
The bar has been raised by many authors like Dan Abnett, like Aaron Dembski Bowden, like John French, like Guy Haley, like Chris Raitt. I mean, just to name a few right off the top who are writing at a very, very high level in many, many cases, and they could write fiction anywhere, and it would sell.
Well, even if you look at some of the people you mentioned,
and some of them do. Justin Hill, right? Yeah.
If you look at some of the people you mentioned, you read their first or second 40K entries as opposed to what they're writing now.
Mm-hmm.
right?
And there's a gap.
Yeah, there's a huge difference, and some of it
they're learning too.
Right, and I think also some of it though is the direction they get from the company.
Yeah.
In this novel, we
sure.
want to feature this.
Right.
And I think that has a big. I think they get there is an assignment, right?
It depends. It depends on the assignment.
Right. It depends on the assignment. Right.
Like a lot of times, these authors will come to Black Library editor and say,
"I want to do this.
Here's what I'm thinking for my next novel."
Right.
Okay. Or in some cases, they say, "We need a novel written
on
Dark
this.
Imperium
Yeah.
on this, and it has to contain these things." Right. And that's, I think, a very different assignment.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is Guy Haley gets a lot of these assignments because he writes so fast, like so incredibly
is that
fast.
Right?
Having been, he was in journalism before,
right.
so having been so fast, he can just knock things out.
Yeah.
Like I just finished Wolfsbane and I went to Black Library, so I'm like, oh, he's got another book. It's in the fantasy. Jeez, man, this guy is knocking him out. And I mean, Guy's a wonderful guy,
Yeah.
but man, he just writes so prolifically. Whereas you have Aaron, who's the other end of that spectrum, who writes very slowly by comparison.
Right.
But man, every book he puts out is like a solid.
It's on the money. Yeah.
Well, I think it's exciting too that they're pushing the story further forward and changing things and blowing stuff up.
I go back and forth on that, but I'm starting to like it.
Yeah.
I'm liking it more and more.
Well, in my eyes, it got me a little more excited to read into the novels because things are different. Things are changing. Mm-hmm. It's not the kind of quote unquote same old. You know.
I kind of don't know where stuff's going to go now.
You're talking about the 40K novels, not the 30K novels.
Yeah, 40K. Yeah. We kind of know where Heresy's headed, right?
Yeah. And I kind of go back and forth about, do I really want that story told or not?
The Horus Heresy stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's on some level, it's kind of the mystery that was involved was kind of the part of the pull for it. But, I think it's great to have the stories too.
I kind of just want it now. I'm so invested in it now. I just want to know how it turns out. So Siege of Terra coming soon.
Yeah. It's interesting. You were talking about the number of 40K novels you were reading or 30K novels you were reading per month. I kind of did a bunch of them in a row. I was like, oh, you know what? Now when I get my Audible credits, I'll do like 3 credits a month, and only one of the 3.
I kind of do a palate cleanser. I need to do something else. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think lore does play a very, very big.
So where is it though in the pillars for you?
Boy.
Or is it a foundation thing that the pillars sit on?
No, I don't think so. I think it is definitely one of the pillars, and it's probably up there. I mean, it's one of the things I consistently, regularly do. To Justin's point, listening to a book about a certain thing will inspire me to move forward on things. What I need is a book about the Minotaurs. So moving on.
So answer me this. Are you able to, because some people can't and some people can, are you able to concentrate on the story in a book while you paint or while you assemble?
Yes. While I paint and assemble, I can. Absolutely.
So what about you, Justin?
I can. Yeah. And actually, I really enjoy, I'm actually listening to a Death Guard book right now.
But I cannot do it while I work
on my stuff.
Or something like that.
Yeah, no, I can't do it while I'm working or while I'm reading things on the internet.
While I paint.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, it is a kind of a foundation that supports another pillar.
That's
right?
True.
Like people talk about, they listen to the podcast while they paint or assemble.
Well, that's what I used to do, is listen to podcasts.
Right, and some people they listen to the novels, right? And so for people who are not physically reading them, that's kind of how they overlap that pillar onto the others.
Yeah. Okay, I think this has been a really interesting discussion. If in my personal opinion. I want to talk about this New York Times article that we spoke of earlier, In Praise of Mediocrity, written by Tim Wu. And the byline on it is, the pursuit of excellence has infiltrated and corrupted the world of leisure. Meaning, a lot of these hobbies that we do, and in particular we're going to tie this to 40K, a lot of these hobbies that we do, we should enjoy. It should be our downtime, right? We're working very hard regularly, hopefully, in our jobs. We have family obligations. We have all these things that take serious time. And then you have hobbies.
That should be a release.
Hobbies should
be fun.
It should be fun.
It should be something that you do
not stressful.
Right, non-stressful. And because the United States is one of the industrialized countries that where the people work more per year than other countries.
Yeah. And here's a paragraph in particular I just want to read from the article that really kind of struck home for me. They're talking about how you're busy, you have all these obligations, and where are we supposed to find the time to hobby? People will not hobby or don't have hobbies because of this. And he says, but there's a deeper reason. I've come to think that so many people don't have hobbies. We're afraid of being bad at them. This kind of goes to your gatekeeper thing a little earlier too. Or rather, we are intimidated by the expectation itself, a hallmark of our intensely public and performative age, that we must actually be skilled at what we do in our free time. Our quote-unquote hobbies, if that's even a word for them anymore, have become too serious, too demanding, too much an occasion to become anxious about whether you are really the person you claim to be. So, for example, if you're a jogger, it's no longer enough to cruise around the block. You're training for the next marathon.
Yep.
If you're a painter, you're no longer passing a pleasant afternoon, just you, your watercolors, and your water lilies. You're trying to land a gallery show or at least garner a respectable social media following.
Yep.
When your identity is linked to your hobby, you're a yogi, a surfer, a rock climber. You'd better be good at it, or else who are you? And I thought, wow, like those two paragraphs really struck home for me. And that's not to say, and the author goes on to say, it's not to say you can't enjoy excelling at something. Sure. And working hard at excelling it. And that may work for you, but if you
remember why you do it,
remember
right?
why you do it, which is ultimately to get away from everything and release some stress and not stress yourself out over this isn't good enough. I'm not good enough.
Right.
I can't be in this. I don't want to put my models on the table because they're not good enough. How often do we see people say, oh my God, that painting of that model you just did is great. I'm just going to throw my brushes away now or break my brushes. Why? If you're getting enjoyment out of it, who cares what somebody else is? I ceased comparing myself to other people many years ago, and that's part of a thing where you get to a maturity level where you're like, yeah,
you
whatever.
become happy with what you're capable
happy
of.
with yourself.
I'm going to be dying in the next 3 years anyway. Who cares?
You are way too healthy.
I call dibs on the cases.
Which brand?
Yeah. For me, this article was just very interesting because it really gave me a moment's pause to think, gosh, you know what? Take the podcast, for example. When Jeff and I initially started the podcast, it was, we want to make it the best thing we can possibly make. And as we learned more, we made it better and better.
Right.
We have had you guys on for a significant amount of time. We've had others on.
So it got
I think
worse
you
and
guys
worse.
have actually been on longer.
Yeah.
I think you guys have actually been on longer than Jeff was on now. And the reality is the podcast exceeded all my expectations, but it became also a thing for me to experiment with things like, well, what happens if we do this? And does that generate interest? I'm very interested in marketing in general, so I like to see what happens when I do it, X or Y,
right.
What garners more interest. So sorry, listeners, I'm kind of experimenting on you as I go, but
well, every market does.
But that kind of, but there was a sense, and there probably still is a sense a bit amongst us of we want to put out the best product out there that we think is the best product out there when we have time to do that, right? And that's maybe changed a little bit as we reached certain levels of success, and it became less important to me because I kind of achieved more than I ever expected. But but the reality is, there's always somebody who's coming up with the next podcast.
Yep.
Do I want to be better than them? Yeah, I mean, I probably do. I probably do if I'm being honest and fair.
Well, I think it goes. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be good at what you do, like as you were saying.
Yeah.
But I really, this thing hit home
as
for
I
me.
just said, by the way, that I don't compare myself to other people, but I do compare the show to other shows.
That's interesting.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because I listen to very few other shows specifically for that reason.
But I do not listen to other 40K podcasts at this point. I don't want to steal content. I don't want to get influenced by them. I want to do my own.
Or don't want to get accused of stealing content.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you all. Shut up now. Go ahead, Adon.
But the line that in there that really struck home for me was also in that paragraph that you read about, you're not just jogging. It's what's the next race you're training for.
Right.
Right. And it's interesting to me because I find myself less motivated to go running if I don't have an event I signed up for.
Interesting.
And so, because for me, the running isn't really a hobby. It's a way to, I think I need to stay in shape, and so I do it so that I stay in shape.
Right.
But my wife accuses me of having too many hobbies, whether it's airsofting or motorcycling or 40K or whatever.
Why shouldn't you?
And
at this point, you've earned it.
Well, I mean, but I'm not good at any of them, right? And so it's just a matter of.
Come on.
It's just
But you're going to hit on a point. Keep going.
But for me, it's just a matter of I just want to go have fun. And this is where it strikes me that it really bothers me sometimes where I'm talking about, oh, this was this great game and we did this and this happened. And the first question people ask me is, who won?
Right.
Did you win? You know what? I don't care.
The next paragraph. Lost here is the gentle pursuit of a modest competence, the doing of something just because you enjoy it, not because you are good at it.
Right.
And that's just a very interesting state of mind.
And part of it is our social media driven society.
Yeah.
You're on Instagram, you're on Snapchat, you're on these different things.
It's
and
a bit narcissistic.
You want to be, you want to get the clicks, you want to get the likes, but you also want to look like you're good at what you're doing.
You want to have this appearance.
Right? You don't want to be on fail blog, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the guy in the video falling down the stairs. But the guy who does a really cool trick fell down those stairs a whole bunch of times.
100,000 times.
Before he was able to do that. So, I think it's interesting to me when I juxtaposition that against the way some people have quote unquote fun with the hobby.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a group of folks. They, as Justin was talking about, chasing the dragon, buying getting the most powerful army. They enjoy that. They enjoy that number crunching to get that most killy army to go out and find those rules exploits and just hammer it.
Yeah.
Right. They enjoy it. Mm-hmm. That's how they really like to spend their time.
Yeah.
And but because they want to be the best that they can be. So there's a piece in the article about what is it they're trying to have fun at, right? And for me, it's like on my hobby is like going to the track with my motorcycle. I'm never going to be the fastest guy on the track. I'm never going to be the fastest guy in my block. I'm never going to be the fastest guy on my brand of motorcycle. But that's not the goal. I'm competing against myself.
Right.
I want to be the best for me.
I think that is the crucial point right there.
On that bike.
Yeah.
Right. And when I'm having a game of 40K, I want to win. I mean, I'm playing. my strategies are so that I can win. But if at the end of the game we had a blast and we were laughing and we were having, I don't really care.
Yeah. And you hit it on the head, Justin, when you said it's about, what is it to you?
Yeah. What's your goal?
What's your goal? And I think the article, and he even goes on to say, he wouldn't begrudge somebody for trying to do their best and becoming the best. And as you
he even talks about Olympic athletes. They're the ultimate in hobby athletes, right?
Yeah. I mean, and you said it. I mean, the chasing the dragon stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way those guys are enjoying the hobby.
Right.
My concern comes where that and the idea and concept of turning this into some kind of esport thing proves to be a barrier to people who just want to go out and enjoy themselves and have fun. And this, for me, is one of the things I really enjoy about Adepticon, because there are so many different ways to play the game and different types of games that you can find the people who are just like, we don't want to play in that tournament. Like, we're not playing in that tournament because that's where all the people who are trying to chase the dragon
you go play in the events that are going to appeal to you.
I'm going to play in this event because these people are just playing Space Hulk against these guys for some laughs.
Right.
And arguably, that's the event we enjoy the most at Adepticon every year. And
that's one of the reasons why I always play the Combat Patrol and Zone Mortalis events, because it's over really quickly. And if I end up with somebody,
even if somebody's intense, it's a short period.
It's a short period of time. And the idea, even the folks who are chasing the dragon and trying to get the best they can get on the tabletop, one of the things I worry about is that actually relieving stress in their life?
I don't know.
Or is it creating more stress in their life? Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
And so where are those guys relieving their stress? In the bar? I don't know. I mean, I worry about that, right? I see people so intense in these games,
especially when there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah, but even at events that I run, where if you win, you're not going to get a prize.
Right.
Some of the folks get super intense. And I think to myself, when do you ever unwind? What do you do to unwind?
Yeah. Yeah. Justin, you've played at a high level of competition from
GTs
time to time.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, do you find that relaxing? I know Colin doesn't.
I would say relaxing would be the word I would use for it. Challenging would be the word that I use for it. And then that kind of leads to making you become a better player, which is enjoyable.
Okay.
I mean, that being said, it's back to that root canal thing. You know, you can be having a really competitive game against somebody. Like when I play Robert, we play like brutal, bare knuckle boxing, you know, not net lists, but powerful armies. And we have a blast.
Yeah.
We might talk some smack along the way. And
sure.
But we set that expectation that, hey, well, because we're going to be going to more tournaments here coming up together, because he's kind of got that competitive mindset as well. But it's just that expectation has been set, so there's no feel badsies,
right?
You know, because we're both bare knuckle boxing each other on the 40K match.
For me, I find those tournaments and that mindset to be incredibly stressful.
Yeah,
like I'm just like, you know, I'm like, I feel like my opponent. I'm like, yeah, you have a different objective here than I have, and that's I think what it boils down to for me.
You just don't have that competitive bone in your body.
I like winning. Don't get me wrong.
Everybody does, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
I compete in other ways, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting article. I think it was worth kind of talking about for a minute because, you know, I think what it boils down to is losing sight of the goal. If the goal is to relax, if the goal is to become the best 40K player in the world,
right,
and that's what you enjoy, pursue it till your heart's delight. If your goal is just to do something other than work and stress, don't be intimidated by the guy who's trying to become the best 40K player in the world.
Yeah, I think it's a good
point.
Enjoy
it for what you're trying to enjoy it for.
Yep.
Yeah. When I was a detective, a group of us decided we're going to go play golf.
Yeah.
Let's start playing golf, which I thought was stupid at the time. But when I actually got out there on the golf course, I realized that when I was doing that, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I wasn't thinking about family issues. I wasn't thinking about work. I was just concentrating on trying to hit this stupid little ball and get into that stupid little hole. Right?
You can tell he really likes golf.
And then, so we used to.
He's about to go all Robin Williams.
Some of us kind of made a game. We'd make an actual like aerobic event out of it. You'd have like three clubs, and you hit the ball and jog to the next one. And you never rent a cart. But what started seeing around me is guys, you know, spending $400 on a driver, and you're not using the right ball, and your stance is all messed up. And it's like, you know what? I don't want this to be stressful.
Yeah. Right.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're doing anything in life that, you know, whether it's you're not happy with your job or your relationship, and we're getting kind of deep here, like just change. Do whatever it takes to like not just go like down that. Just And treat things like a journey, you know.
That's a great point, right?
I mean, like I'm big time when I say big time, I mean I like working out, but I don't like look at dudes on YouTube like, God, I wish I looked like that dude. I treat my body like my own fitness as a journey, not a destination, and I try to push myself. And the same thing with the hobby. I try to always be learning new techniques and trying to become a better player, both rules wise and being cooler and keeping my cool or whatever the case may be. Always having that in the back of your head of like, how can I be a better?
And do you feel that that doing that still helps you relieve the stress of the day and the stress of your work?
Absolutely.
And stuff like that?
Well, for you, you're not thinking about the other things while you're focused on that, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's absolutely my escape. You know, it's therapeutic. The hobby is very therapeutic for me.
It's interesting how many people it is therapeutic for. Yeah. How many times we hear people, this got me through this, or we get letters occasionally from listeners who are like, I was going through a hard time, and I got. Thank you guys for putting this out. It's just interesting the things people connect onto that just lets them think about something else for a while.
Right.
And back to that ebb and flow thing, like, Pablo, like if you're not having good games, just change gears and
start painting.
Work on one of these other pillars for a bit.
Work on another pillar and try to find people like Adon was saying that he finds joy in playing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, guys, let's take a break. We'll come back, close out the show. right, so welcome back. We're going to close out episode 176, The Independent Characters.
That was deep.
Please check out our show notes, because I will have links to some of the various things we've talked about in the hobby progress section there.
And Carl, where do they find those show notes?
Well, they can find them on the website at theindependentcharacters.com.
Oh,
there's usually a link from our Facebook group and Facebook page to that page right there. They can also find them in the app that they're using to look at or to listen to the show. So
Excellent.
You can see those notes there. Thanks for calling that out.
My pleasure.
It's almost professional.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys got any last minute things you want to throw out there before we stop? You should check out Adon and Justin in the Lords and Heroes podcast, which is now featured on iTunes.
Thanks, man.
So congratulations, you guys, for getting those episodes out there.
It's been fun.
People are enjoying it.
Yep. Got to find the next
So
bar.
if you're not getting enough of these two here, you can hear them there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go have a glass of sherry and sit by the fire and think about all these deep things we discussed.
Well, that's what the fireplace here is for.
Yes.
We'll start doing some videos of fireside chats.
Oh, that would be
in the
awesome.
future. Yeah, after we do game day, we'll just sit on the thing. We'll video it, mic everybody up, and just.
As long as I get to wear a Hugh Hefner robe.
Yeah.
And can I have a cigar in here?
We should get
cigarettes
robes
on
that we all have to wear.
With a little monocle.
Monocle.
That's the one. Top hat,
molecule.
Maybe. Molecule. Wear a molecule.
So thank you again for joining us for episode 176 of The Independent Characters.
Leave us a review.
Yeah, leave us a review on iTunes, leave us a review on Facebook. We recognize that there has been some gap between episodes going on. There's a lot of family stuff going on. We're trying to kind of get back on track. It's been very difficult part of the year for my family, but we are recovering from that. And, we're heading into the holidays here, so it's a good thing I'm already keeping a list for the year-end review, which is going to be insane. So
man,
be prepared to
good luck
a lot
being a collector with
Yeah.
this release schedule.
All right. So I guess that's it. For us. We hope to be back in about a couple weeks.
Yep.
And Don and I are doing some traveling, so we'll see you then. So in the meantime, this is Carl.
This is Don.
And this is Justin.
We're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where you can embrace the ebb and flow.
And there is now amazing room in the Astronomicon for all 6 pillars.
That's right. We could even add a 7th
in here,
in this room.
Nurgle calleth. And enjoy the journey, folks. The destination is an illusion.
That was deep. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.